Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's December 21st, and this is the regular Board of Supervisors meeting. Madam Clerk, if you would verify that Supervisor Johnson is on the telephone, please.
Supervisor Johnson, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll begin the meeting this morning with an invocation from Pastor Albert, and then we'll I'll continue with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you for coming, Pastor.
Father God, we come to you humbly to your throne of grace, Father. I just thank you for this time that we can come together and be about the business of this city. Father God, I thank you for this Board of Supervisors. I pray, God, that you would give them wisdom as Solomon asked for wisdom to lead your people. I pray, Lord, that you will give the supervisors the wisdom to make sound judgment by your grace and by your authority, Father God. We just praise you and we thank you for this time. I pray for those in attendance here, Father God, that you would show them your grace, your mercy, and sound judgment on their part as well, Father. We ask these things in the precious name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the Board of Supervisors may by motion recess into executive session to receive legal advice from the board's attorneys on any item contained within this agenda, and that's pursuant to ARS 38-431-03A3 and 4. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to call for an executive session to be held January the 4th, 2021 at 9 a.m. It's be for discussion and consultation with legal counsel in accordance with ARS 38-431-03A3 and 4. To discuss items noticed in the agenda with an asterisk.
So moved. Second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Can I get a motion now, an action to approve the waiving of the reading in full of items presented for discussion, adoption, or approval at this meeting?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The official business to come before the board this morning. First, item number one, be discussion of pending or contemplated litigation claims and demands. Attorney Esplin, do we have anything?
Nothing to report to the board, thank you.
Okay. Number two would be committee and or legislative reports. Supervisor Johnson, do you have anything?
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Supervisor Watson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Enclosed, or actually I put on each one of your desks there a report on the Colorado River System Reservoir Status Report. In that report is also the predictions of the snow mass and production of snow melt over the next few months. Also explains Tier 1 shortage, Tier 2 shortage. It appears that because we've had such little precipitation this winter, that we'll be more than likely looking at some severe situations in Lake Mead and Lake Powell soon. Sorry to report that, but pretty clear in this report. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Angus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had our last CSA meeting of the year last week. I know several of us were in attendance. I'm just going to go through some of the budget priorities that we agreed to during our summit back in October. One of the issues that, a lot of these things are things we try to do every year. We fight to get these things done for whatever reasons. Either it does or it doesn't. First is to eliminate the Arizona Department of Juvenile Corrections fee, which is $8.5 million. ADJC is an obligation of the state general fund and was fully funded by the state until a budget shortfall in 2015. In FY20 rural counties were permanently relieved of the burden, which was good for us, while Maricopa and Pima counties only received one-time relief. So that leaves those two counties now taking up the burden. So CSA is trying to just get the state to cover all of that. Next one is contain mandatory county contributions to ALTAX, which is the Arizona Long-Term Care System. It's another one that we've been going for many, many years. It's a state program administered by Access. Counties have no administrative role in the program. We just pay the bill. You just pay the bill. Between FY19 and FY21, the county bill went up by over 14%, a $37 million hit to county taxpayers. It takes 20% of the county primary property tax collections to cover the cost of mandated ALTAX payments in FY21 on average. So as you can see, it's a big road, and we try every year, and we're going to try again this year. Some of the other things that they're going to lobby on our behalf is invest in Arizona's infrastructure, transportation infrastructure. And again, when you hear that, they always want to try to raise the gas tax. Hasn't been raised for many years. There's disagreement, that transcends party lines on this, because our roads are in disarray and we don't get enough HERF money. Current revenues are insufficient because construction and labor costs have dramatically outpaced the growth in HERF collections. They also want to lobby on behalf of broadband infrastructure. High-speed internet and broadband infrastructure is a foundation for economic growth and global competitiveness, access to education and healthcare, more and more, we know that. Inadequate broadband access is impeding economic development, has left rural businesses and citizens at a competitive disadvantage. I know that we are really addressing this in Mohave County, and maybe in the beginning of the year we can have a report on that. Some other things, little smaller things that the CSA we approved was a little formality on write-in candidates. Well, some people might think it's such a small formality, but require write-in candidates to complete the same residency requirements as candidates seeking the nomination of a recognized party or an independent candidate. There's an item about military leave pay, cap the total amount of paid military leave at 240 hours over 2 years to match federal rules. That's, again, just a housekeeping thing. Dangerous, incompetent, and non-restorable. It establishes a state-supported civil commitment process for dangerous individuals charged with crimes if they cannot complete the criminal justice process due to being found incompetent to stand trial and able to be restored to competency. So they want to create a state-funded process to provide treatment and secure housing for individuals that has been charged with a crime, are dangerous and unable to stand trial. Again, something very important that we've been lobbying for a long time. Hopefully this year will be the year. Elected improvement district boards, authorize county board of supervisors to create and empower an elected board of directors for a county recreation improvement district. We do not have one of those. Short-term vacation property tax parity provides clarification to county assessors on how to properly classify short-term rental lodging operations, creates regulatory equity between traditional hotels and investor-owned STRs to mitigate the impact on residential neighborhoods. This is an Airbnb issue that now is seeing a lot of the unintended consequences of the short-term rental properties in residential neighborhoods. So we'll be watching that because we do have that issue here. Rural counties, this is on the same line, transient lodging tax, provide counties with a population of 500,000 or less the authority to vote on, approve, and levy a transient lodging tax in unincorporated areas of the county. And juvenile dependency representation, establish a juvenile dependency proceedings fund to assist counties disproportionately impacted by an increase in petitions since the reorganization of the Department of Child Safety. Allocate, and so the action here would be to allocate financial resources to assist counties that continue to see an increase in costs associated with providing mandated attorney services for indigent defendants in juvenile dependency matters. And then at the end, we have irrigation non-expansion areas. Authorize the Arizona Department of Water Resources Director to declare a subsequent irrigation non-expansion area prospectively. And that is something that we have been working on. The other big presentation we were given at our last meeting, it's time for redistricting now that we're done with the census. When we get the census numbers in, the whole country, the state and our local county will be doing redistricting. It is quite the operation, if any of you remember it from 10 years ago. There's a lot of opportunity for involvement from everybody. And so we'll be talking a lot more about that. I've asked Sam Elters, when he does his report, just to give a very short overview of what we might be expecting. And then we'll be more in depth as when it happens. And we need a legislative liaison for CSA. I'm sure we'll vote on that beginning of the year. And that is it from me. Thank you.
Supervisor Angus, could you repeat that, please? Thank you. I'll get it in the minutes. Supervisor Gold?
Nothing today, ma'am.
Hey, and my report was the same, so pardon the humor. County Manager, do you have a report?
Madam Chair, board members, good morning. And yes, I do have a report. It's going to have 3 items. I will start with what Supervisor Angus just mentioned and build on that, and that is indeed redistricting is coming up. It's predicated on the population increase in Mohave County since the last census in 2010. April 1st is a key date. That is the date when the Bureau, when the Census Bureau releases the 2020 census data. That will be followed by a period where the board will hold first series of public meetings. That will happen between May and July. And mind you, this whole process is about public involvement, as Supervisor Angus mentioned. It is to solicit and seek input from the public related to districting. In August and October, the board will follow up with a second series of public meetings, and the process will conclude on December 1st. That is a hard date. That's when the board will approve and adopt a plan. I would like to just point out really quick that equal district population is not required, but it is highly recommended, and there is a 10% deviation. So we will be watching that. And then the last comment is between now and April 1st, we will schedule a time with the board to discuss where the board wants to go with this, to establish some principles and guidelines that we would operate with. And last but not least, whether the board would like to have this done in-house or hire a consultant to assist us in the process. So that is the one item related to Supervisor Angus's report. I do have 2 other items. One is an update to the board. It's a follow-up from the last board meeting for the Vote AZ grant. As you all know, the registration period was extended and the voting period was extended. That had an impact on the board. We did accept a grant for that, and I thought it would be great for our recorder, Christy Blair, and our election director, Alan Tempert, to provide the board just a quick update, and they promised me they would do it in 3 to 5 minutes. So, Christy, Alan, please go ahead.
Well, thank you so much, Board, Chairman, everybody, for giving us this opportunity to do so. I'll make it quick. I got it. I promised. the quick one. All right, in July, the governor's office and the Secretary of State's office came up with $5 million to appropriate to the counties for specific election things, okay, that to operate to help us out through the COVID time. They broke it down by registered voters, and it came down that Mohave County's share was $213,996. But it's not just money given to us, and I believe it's part of the CARES Act fund. It's money that we have to show what we spent to do this. And it was not to replace our budget, it was a supplement to our budget. It was really specific. It was staff, additional staff that was necessary to help run things like early voting or clean polling places. It was ballots for millions of early ballots that we would have not have had to start with, okay? That kind of stuff was very specific. So we ended up, it was a very short time period to apply, got through that time period, went through the elections, put in our expenses between us and the recorder's office. This was a joint venture, and we were able to come up with, between this, and the deadline was a week or two ago, $83,030 of expenses to cover. We cannot collect the whole $213,000 unless we could say we spent it. Got it, okay? So of that, the elections department came up with $97,3656, and the recorder came with $73,293.50. If you look at her operation, the operation that they had to do, Christie's group, it was much more into the line with what they needed, behind stuff I've already had to have budgeted out to start with. Okay? So that's my thing.
Thank you, Alan.
So when I came and asked for an additional $100,000, this was the grant that I had mentioned. We were hoping for reimbursement. And we did get the full amount. Once we figured out what all the expenses were, that came to $73,000 something. The majority of that was additional ballots, postage, supplies, and staff that we needed to, because of the increase with the extended voter registration deadline. We had more people. We had approximately 23,000 additional voters that voted in the general, so they were able to reimburse us for those expenses. So the $100,000 that I came and asked for should very likely be returned at the end of the fiscal year due to these grant funds that we received.
Okay, thank you very much. Do any of the board members have any questions for either elections or recorder? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Alan. One more item, Madam Chair and board members, and that has to do with the Detention and Probation Department. The county just went through and finished an audit related to the Prison Rape Elimination Act. This was completed very recently. I think the results were such that I thought it would be very important for the board to hear. And Judge Gertler was kind enough to agree to share those results with us. So with that, I turn it over. Judge, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, County Manager Alters. May it please the chairman, board members, council, and clerk. I've heard many times from the board that the strength of this organization is based upon its employees, so I did want to, I gladly accepted County Manager Elter's offer to address juvenile probation and its detention staff. On September 4 of 2003, President George W. Bush signed into law the Prison Rape Elimination Act, known as PREA. And the goal of this act is to eradicate sexual harassment and the rape of individuals who are confined in prison or detention centers. Every 3 years, there is an audit of the Mohave County Juvenile Detention Center, and the results of the audit are reported back to the United States Department of Justice. The detention center, over the 3-year period, must provide and implement standards for prevention planning, responsive planning, training and education, screening for risk of sexual victimization and abusiveness, reporting procedures and documentation, official response following a resident's report, conduct investigations, provide discipline, attend to medical and mental care, and complete data collection and review. The Juvenile Detention Director, Amber Freed, began work answering a 75-page questionnaire and providing all necessary backup documentation in September and October of this year. The on-site audit of the facilities and interviews with Juvenile Director Josh Frisbee, Ms. Freed, detention staff from the day, swing, and graveyard shifts, Human Resources, Director of Nursing, the mental health clinician, volunteers, juveniles detained, and various contractors occurred in early December. In addition, there was a review and audit of residents' files, HR files, and training records. This past year alone, there's been over 320 different children that have been detained in the Mohave County Juvenile Detention Center. And after this exhaustive audit, the auditor stated to the juvenile probation staff how impressed she was with the condition of the facility, the knowledgeable staff, and the reports by the detained youths stating that they felt safe and protected. She further reported juvenile probation that she has completed or conducted over 30 PREA audits across the nation this past year, and the Mohave County Juvenile Detention Center is only the second audit with no findings of noncompliance. So congratulations to Juvenile Director Josh Frisbee, Juvenile Detention Center Director Amber Freed, and her staff on this impressive accomplishment. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Gertler.
Thank you, Judge, for that great report. Madam Chair, board members, and that concludes the county manager's report.
Okay, thank you very much. So we will now go on to the call to the public. I do have a few people that would like to speak, and we'll begin with Mr. Scotty McClure.
I want to thank Ron again for having this agenda on your window. It's nice to come here prepared. I've asked you all to put it on your windows, and you haven't. You haven't put it out there yet. That's going to change come the first of the year. You're going to have to start posting this stuff. It's to the public. And Ron, make sure you turn in a clean AR-15 to Mark Kelly when he gets around to it. Very clean one. That's the first thing they're going to go after, and you know it. They're not going after the rounds. I want to thank you guys this year for doing Shrimp Road. And there's several items on here about Shrimp Road today. I drove that part that you did do. What a difference. Thank you. And now you're doing some Mountain View down there by our hospital, Valley View and all that, Hammer. And you've authorized, these homes are already built now. You've authorized these. And there are 2 and 3 people in the family. There are 2 and 3 car garages. They're nice homes. And now we're getting rid of some of these dirt roads. You're doing the Mountain View project that, you know, we got brand new subdivisions. It's great to see that. Number 33 on this. I'm still kind of mad about this 10-cent tax. If you're going to approve an item on here on your thing for the year, well, when are you going to fix this? There were several people that got bad tax bills sent to them. My 10-cent tax is BS. You guys get 30% of that. The schools down in Bullhead get 10% each. Fire department in Bullhead gets, 40% or something like that? Have fun dividing up 30% of 10 cents. There are other people that you sent tax bills to that are wrong. And all I got was a phone call. That ain't cutting it. I want it in writing that that is wrong. A computer screwed up. I don't care who screwed up. The other one is this handicapped parking that you guys won't do anything about down there like in Aztec, Smith's, and Safeway. We did something about it in Bullhead City. I got the law passed down there to charge them jerks $750 a day for violating the law. Now we got big old signs, enter, at Safeway there. They finally wised up. Walmart still got one of their gates locked, but they're using an excuse that we need to have this delivery. They're moving all sorts of handicapped parking down there. And the fire marshals that you told me to phone are a joke. The ones in Fort Mohave and Bullhead City. We just got a brand new one, and now she's getting big wages. You can't, they won't do nothing. And they're the ones responsible for this handicapped doors being locked. They get paid for it. Yeah.
Thank you for speaking, Scotty. Next is Stephen Robinson. And after that, it'll be Chris Rodarty. Kenny Works, again, you'll be last. I go alphabetical.
I'm Steve Robinson from Golden Valley. Chairman, board members, staff. First off, I want to mention, because elections are so important to us and to me, I want to thank Alan Tempert and Christy Blair for working with them. I worked with them extensively this past year. Both of them did outstanding work, and I don't care what anything else has been said. We had a safe and secure and free election in Mohave County. Thank you, too. The other issues I wanted to talk about too quickly, and I have plenty of time left. 8 years ago, this meeting, it was illegal to wear this hat, this shirt. It would have been illegal to have worn this mask if it had been required. Why? Because they had passed a law saying, a dress code, saying nothing patriotic, no guns can come into the building. And thankfully, when Supervisor Angus and 2 others took office the next month of 2013, they eliminated those requirements. That'll go to the issue on number 46 when we talk about this resolution 1776. It seems like there's a problem with the county trying to restrict our freedoms. And hopefully we'll have a real solid meeting of the minds on that issue soon. Finally, 19 years ago, this county did what is called a comprehensive annual financial report for 2001. That was the last year. All 3 cities in our county produce comprehensive annual financial reports. All the major counties in the state of any size, from Coconino and Cochise all the way up to Maricopa. The state of Arizona produces CAFRs. The purpose of them and the purpose of a budget, a fully open and detailed budget, is transparency to the people. I hope, in fact, in 2015, the finance director requested the CAFR module, and it was added so that they could do an easier job of preparing financial reports instead of using a whole slew of complicated spreadsheets. Yet to this date, even though I was told 3 years ago they would start producing a comprehensive annual financial report, they haven't done it. There is a lot of people here, not just me, that know how to read them and know what to look for. I sincerely encourage you to start looking at adding comprehensive annual financial reports. Lastly, I want to say thank you for your years of service, Supervisor Watson. Thank you.
Chris Rodarty.
Chris Rodarty, Kingman. When you see that in order to produce, you need to obtain permission from men who produced nothing, when you see that money is flowing to those who deal not in goods but in favors, when you see that men get richer by graft and by pull than by work, and your laws don't protect you against them but protect them against you, when you see corruption being rewarded and honesty becoming a self-sacrifice, you know that your society is doomed. In 1957, Atlas Shrugged author Ayn Rand grimly foresaw the future of 2020 America, a year that featured a staggering government takeover, seizure of our sacred First and 14th Amendment rights, coupled with the breaking and masking of the American spirit, all the result of a carefully crafted, skillfully initiated, deep state-imposed campaign of terror and fear. You told us that unless we complied with mask wearing and standing 6 feet apart, we would all die of the Wuhan flu. And we believed you. Then you told us to shutter our small businesses or we would surely die. And we complied. You promised it would take only 14 days to flatten the curve, and we bought it. 14 days turned into 14 weeks, turned into 9 months with no foreseeable end. Even with a rushed-to-market vaccine, we are still ordered to mask and separate for however long you deem necessary. By the way, removing mask mandates and opening up were mere ruses. To your discredit, you have successfully ingrained face mask wokeness into the culture, as most people now voluntarily muzzle, children included, proudly posting pictures of their masked up faces on social media while marching obediently to the groupthink drumbeat. So today you, the Mohave County Board of Supervisors, will accept another $1.6 million to reimburse COVID costs through February 2022 and vote to keep the staff of state funds flowing, ensuring the county's ongoing compliance. How is it possible to project these costs? What are they? Where is the budget? Where are the audits? This is taxpayer money, and we are expected to simply roll over once again and trust the process. So many questions remain unanswered, no doubt by design. We the people are at our wits' end, but are mercifully offering a chance to redeem yourselves. Today you can begin the process by declaring Mohave County a constitutional sanctuary county. Doing so may only mark a baby step toward righting your dictatorial wrongs, but it's a start. In good conscience, you must grab this opportunity toward redemption and vote yes on this resolution. Do your sacred duty and vote in favor of our constitutional sanctuary county today.
Time is up.
Thank you.
Any Works? Mr. Works, you are up.
Kenny Works, Yucca, Arizona. I'm speaking today on truth. I came to this county in 2021 or 2001, and I was registered as an independent because I couldn't stand anything the left is doing, and I was fed up with the lack of support from the Republican end of things. That's when the word rhino came into being, and since then I've become a Republican, and I've been pretty proud of the way our county has been conducting itself in that direction. And I just wanted to thank everyone on the county staff for guiding us in that direction. We've had a pretty good year last year concerning all the problems, and we've managed to maintain our Republican base. I just want to think that we need to have a commitment to the truth. We need a commitment to morals, and we need a commitment to truth, morals, and manners. I think politeness goes a long way, and I think we've been there, we've done that, and it's been good, and I think we need to make an effort to continue in that direction. There's the USS Arizona was deployed in Turkey in 1919. That's when the Black Sea Fleet was rescuing the White Russians from the turmoil caused by the left in Russia, and they were pretty much killing everyone. And we were making runs from the ports in Russia down to the capital in Turkey. The name escapes me now. Constantinople, that's correct. And we rescued many people in that effort, and at the same time we were combined with the French force. Archangel, we took over the port of Archangel and commandeered the railway down towards Moscow, and we took over a large section of Russia in that area for about a year. And we also held 1,200 miles of the Trans-Siberian Railway. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Works. Okay, that concludes the call to the public, and I'll close the meeting. Does anybody on the board have any questions or comments? What is your name?
Oh,
I
see. He just told me.
Okay, so we have several people here that have signed up to speak on item number 46, and I think that's what you all are concerned about. So I am going to move item 46 up on the agenda. And what is your name?
David Johnson. David E. Johnson. Wrote down well. That's not on the agenda. I was told.
Mr. Johnson, rather than to try to find your form that you filled out, why don't you just come on down and say what's on your mind? You've got 3 minutes. If you would, sir, just give us your name and the city that you reside in, please.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name's David E. Johnson. I live in Golden Valley. My address is 5062 West Pearl Drive. I've just come in this area, been here about 4 years. I'm a veteran. I'm 82 years old, and I just wanted to, I went to Raleigh yesterday on the 1776, and I'm interested in the Constitution and how it's being exercised. And I was under the impression that this would be on the agenda, and I understand it isn't. So all I wanted to say was I support that, and I support the Constitution, and I'm just surprised how far we've gone in the wrong direction. Thank you.
Okay, as stated, I will be moving item number 46 to the forefront now. This will be a discussion and possible action of the board's position on a resolution declaring Mohave County, Arizona as a constitutional sanctuary county. Buster Johnson, you asked for this to be placed on the agenda. We do have several people signed up to speak. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I placed it on the agenda. We had told you we would. It's just up to you. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go alphabetically. Judith Goldsmith would be first on the agenda to speak, followed by David Johnson. That's you. You just spoke, so we'll skip you now. I doubt if you want to speak again. And the next speaker will be Scotty McClure.
My name's Judith Goldsmith. I'm of Kingman, Arizona. I'm a retired registered nurse. I came to be supportive of 46 for our rights in our Constitution, and I'm praying that our county honors this. I feel like we've been conditioned in all this area with the pandemic. We should have rights, not only in this area, but other. I moved to Arizona 4 years ago because they were a conservative state. And I retired as a nurse and moved over here. It was my desire to live here because I traveled over here and worked as a nurse earlier in my life. And I've been very pleased with the fact we haven't been as bad as California and Oregon and other states. But when I found out on the agenda our Constitution, we want to, the resolution declaring Mohave County, we want it to honor that. And I came more or less just to support, so I don't have anything written down, but I'm praying that you honor that. Thank you.
Thank you. Scotty McClure.
Gene, I'm not sure what the heck this is all about, so I'm going to I expected Buster to explain what the heck he's doing, putting this on the agenda and what it's all about. I'm from California. That's my excuse. So I supported the gun sanctuary thing, but this one I have no idea what the hell you're doing. So this should have been, you guys should have gone first.
Okay, thank you, Scotty. Robert McGregor. And Scotty, after we speak, if you want to come back and speak again, I'll allow that.
Robert McGregor, Golden Valley. I support 1776. It seems to me that Trump's going to win, and it doesn't seem relevant me saying this, but from the top down, there is a mindset that takes over the country. And this illegal, immoral, treasonous lockdown that's happening is the result of democratic pressure. George Soros, various things. And it's really sad that we have to have this resolution 1776 to stop this incredible evil that's taking over our country. I mean, it just blows my mind how people so obediently wear these masks. I mean, it's nothing. It has nothing to do with COVID virus. It does no good whatsoever. It's like a screen door stopping a mosquito because a virus is so small that masks do no good whatsoever. It's nothing more than conditioning, getting people to obey their lords and masters, their corporate lords and masters. And it's so sad that we have to have this resolution just to get our rights back. I mean, how quickly and how easily our rights were taken away. I have nothing more to say. Thank you.
Bill Mitchell. Bill Mitchell, followed by Stephen Robinson.
Thank you, County Board of Supervisors, for entertaining this petition for redress of grievances that we have, because that's basically...
Could you give us your name and city?
Oh, my name is Bill Mitchell, and I'm from Lake Havasu, 17-year resident. Anyway, I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to have a dialogue about this, because really what we're facing is a breach of public trust that the people are feeling when their rights were not respected, and when they found out that the way that this supposed pandemic was handled was a violation of the First and 14th Amendment. Further, a lot of the way that it was executed and tried to be enforced for violations of U.S. Title 18 of the U.S. Code. And so as a result of that, there's a number of items which I've put in front of you that are needing to be redressed, because the problem with having a lack of faith in your county government, whether it's county, state, city, federal government, is that nothing gets done the way it needs to be done. And as a result, we have people's rights and their freedoms, liberties infringed upon, which is not okay. Each of you have taken an oath of office that have said that you will protect and defend those items. And so we're here to say, okay, under the First Amendment, our petition, we'd like you to redress this and show how you are using your oath of office to defend and protect the Constitution. The really unfortunate thing about us having to put together a Resolution 1776 is that the resolution has absolutely nothing in it that is binding except the law that already exists, the Constitution that already exists. So it's really a no-brainer on your part to want to support that because you've already given your oath to do so. But the fact is that it's a sign, it's a solution to reaffirm your commitment to never having that happen again, to never have the First and 14th Amendment violated in such a way that people suffer the types of business closures and the restrictions and the types of things that took place that clearly have been established as overreach. Again, if you take a look at the count of Butler versus Wolf that took place in Pennsylvania, it clearly established the fact that the First and 14th Amendment were violated by a lot of these overreaching executive orders and things like that. Not to mention that the Constitution has no emergency clause in it. In fact, you'll find in jurisprudence that it says that no emergency supersedes the individual rights. So, with that, now that hopefully Scotty is understanding what we're really about, I'd like to open it up for questions from you as to what's our intent, what are we trying to accomplish, any questions you may have. This is a dialogue, right, or no?
I don't have any questions myself.
Madam Chair?
Supervisor Angus.
Well, I was hoping we would read the resolution so that people can understand it, and I hope we do. But my only question, and we've spoken,
yes.
And I thank you for doing this. You know, when we did the Second Amendment sanctuary counting, people said to me, like, why are you doing this? Arizona is a open carry state and everything. And we're like, well, just in case. And we're seeing that maybe the just in case is coming down the road. But what is your expectation with this? So you're saying that the masks and the way it goes now, each jurisdiction gets to make their own rules. The county does not have a mask mandate, but some cities may want to as numbers go up or whatever. So what is your expectation if we pass this?
The expectation is again, simply that the law is followed and that you don't, there's the whole doctrine of the lesser magistrate that basically says this is part of what you've agreed to do with your oath of office is to honor that. And that basically says that the city's a buffer against the county's a buffer against the state's a buffer against the federal government, against anything that is unconstitutional, and that you will actively resist anything that is unconstitutional. And that's your job as the lesser magistrates. So what my expectation is that, as the resolution states, that you will give absolutely no support behind anything that's deemed unconstitutional or as far as an executive order or anything else that comes down the pike that is not in compliance with the Constitution, because the Constitution clearly states anything that is an executive order, treaty, anything that is outside of the Constitution is considered null and void. In other words, it's devoid of any ability to have any force of law. So that would be my expectation. And my expectation would be that the county attorney would also be somebody who is very, very fluent in the Constitution and being able to truly give a good assessment to you when there is an emergency about when are the rights of the people being trampled upon or when are they not. And if someone's not up to that task, then that you would find someone who would be. Other questions?
Supervisor Gold?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Mitchell, a scenario comes to mind. We may get stuck with a new president. That president has stated that he will at least put a tax on so-called assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. To enforce that, he's going to have to send federal agents into our county. The decision on whether those federal agents can operate in our county lies with our county sheriff as far as enforcement, but it also lies with us whether we give him the money for that enforcement. We control the purse strings, but the sheriff controls the policy. So if we were to adopt Resolution 1776, how would that work?
Well, again, you're absolutely right. We would expect that you would withhold any type of monies, materials, anything that would go to the enforcement of unconstitutional things. That would be definitely a part of what we would be expecting. We would also expect that the sheriff, also being a sworn person to protect and defend the Constitution, would also be on board with this and hopefully would be taking a stand as well as the buffer between the federal law enforcement as well as our current county law enforcement.
So, Madam Chairman, Mr. Mitchell, that would be similar. Let's say that a new president decides that he's going to mandate masks nationwide, even though he does not have the constitutional authority to do that. It would be a similar circumstance?
Absolutely. In other words, this is truly us as a county saying that we will not be moved by illegal executive orders or constitutional rulings, Supreme Court rulings that are outside of the Constitution, because there's a number of those that need to be taking place. I'll give you the long picture of what we're trying to accomplish. Is we're trying to basically, through this resolution, get cities, counties, and states on board, get 34 states together, have an Article 5 Convention of States, in which that we don't, on the articles when we address that we don't say anything's wrong with the Constitution, because the Constitution needs to stay intact. But what has to be addressed is all of the unconstitutional Supreme Court decisions and other things that have come around as far as treaties and other things that undermine our Constitution. And that would be the purpose of that particular Convention of States, because this is probably one of the only ways that we have a really good chance of taking back our country and having to be a constitutional republic again.
Madam Chairman, Mr. Mitchell, under the resolution, who would determine the constitutionality of an act?
Well, hopefully you would have employed a constitutional attorney who would be very, very well-read. And it's very much like if I was going to get a divorce, I wouldn't go to an attorney that specialized in tax, although I might want to, but I would want to get an attorney that was specializing in the area of divorce. However, the same thing would be true in any type of specialty. I'm imagining that the county attorney probably has a broad range of understandings of the Constitution and different things, but perhaps it's not a specialty. So I would suggest that that person be employed as part of your board to say, okay, listen, is this or is this not something that violates the Constitution? Are there or are there not court cases, such as the one I quoted out of Pennsylvania, that certainly bring into question the constitutionality of this, and what should we do and how should we address this to the public? Because this would be really important to continue to not have a breach of the public trust.
So essentially, then, it would be the Board of Supervisors that would determine the constitutionality with advice, outside advice?
I would say that that would be exactly so.
I myself don't have much faith in the politicized Supreme Court. You know, they've decided that they're going to legislate from the bench rather than interpret the Constitution. Exactly. So I'd hate to depend on them for what we feel is unconstitutional, because I would assume that somehow, if this change in presidency would end up with some kind of a gun confiscation scheme, that they would somehow get the politicized Supreme Court to determine that it was somehow constitutional.
Exactly. And the other thing that is really important is that when there's a question about whether rights are being violated or not, the Constitution says that the decision will be made in favor of the people, not the state. And so as a result, is if there's a question about whether or not we are going to err on the side of the state's rights versus individual rights, that would be, again, the obligation of the city, county, state governments to be able to enforce that as that lesser magistrate and protect the people, because that's their job.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions I can answer?
Supervisor Watson.
Mr. Mitchell, thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
As I read your resolution 1776, I have some concerns.
Mm-hmm.
Under that scenario, with the advent of the coronavirus coronavirus, striking an additional 2,000 people in the last 4 weeks, puts Mohave County in a pretty stretched position. How would your 1776 resolution enable or restrict the health department from protecting, as best we can, the citizens of Mohave County?
Well, first, the COVID virus has a 99% recovery rate. And if you look at the death rates this year versus last year, it's actually lower overall in the nation. So this is no worse than a bad case of the flu in terms of what we're looking at as far as the carnage that is the result of this. And I'm not in any way minimizing the fact that there have been people injured by this, but we don't have this kind of a reaction against pneumonia, the flu, the common cold, or anything else like that. We don't shut the engines of economy down, and we don't violate people's rights over something that is 99% recoverable for most people. So the ability for the health department to do their job is to be done within the limits of the Constitution. And so that's how we would protect the people, because to be quite honest, the constitutional rights of the people are much more in danger than their health by what's been taking place so far. So the health department obviously is going to act in the best interest of the people, but within the constraints of the Constitution.
So you're defining their constitutional rights as everyone does not wear a mask, and that all restaurants or public facilities will then no longer make any arrangements for any type of common sense distancing. Is that correct?
What I'm saying is that if a restaurant has a policy that they choose to have people wear masks, if they're not discriminating against the people that are coming in because they have an exemption of some kind or another, that's up to them. If they have a health condition that they want to make sure that people don't spread, the business is not restricted from having a policy of themselves. Just like individuals aren't prevented from wearing masks if they choose to, or if they choose not to. Your health is your obligation. It is not the state's. So that's the issue that comes up with the Constitution. So I am not going to argue the efficacy of masks, because I could argue that with you. I'm not going to argue with you the fact that there is or isn't a pandemic. I'll just talk about the facts, which is that it is 99% survivable, and that we have never in the history of our country imposed these types of draconian restrictions on the citizens of this country for a bad case of the flu.
Well, I thank you. I hope you can give the condolences of the two families of friends of mine that lost people last week. What I'm trying to get at is how do we continue to try our best to protect the general public in restaurants, bars, and other establishments where a number of people collect. Under your resolution, there would be no authority to do that.
It is not your job to do that. Your job is to protect the people. And my condolences go out to people. I've had people die as well, but you know what? They've died of all kinds of things. Unfortunately, that is part of life, is that people do die as a result of illness, old age, all types of things. And it's sad when that happens. And believe me, I've had my share of people die. But at the same time, I don't use that as an excuse for the violation of people's rights. Other questions?
Does anyone else have any further comments or questions? We do have other speakers. Mr. Stephen Robinson?
Thank you so much. Are we done?
You are done.
Thank you.
We have 3 examples about abuse of our constitutional rights. I've already mentioned the one about the dress code and the dress and the firearms ban in this county. There was 2 others that took place, and the incidents happened in November 13th of 2009, a gentleman wore a pitchfork on his back. It was a political statement to a town hall right here where John McCain was speaking. It was a political statement, yet he was arrested for disorderly conduct by carrying a weapon into the building. They dropped that because they found out it wasn't illegal. So March 1st, the board voted to ban guns in the Board of Supervisors meeting. That same gentleman in 2011 wore a shirt that I would consider personally offensive. It was at the property tax hearing where they raised the property tax rate quite substantially because of the lowering values. The shirt said, "F the tax." He was arrested and prosecuted by our county, and yet there was a 1971 U.S. Supreme Court decision about a man wearing a shirt, "F the draft," into Oakland Alameda County Courthouse, and the Supreme Court ruled it was constitutional to wear that shirt. You can say people can't wear any shirts with printing on it. You can say people can't wear any hats or any shirts at all, but you can't say don't wear a shirt with the flag on it. So this county has a history prior to this so-called pandemic of violating people's constitutional rights. So if you're not willing to vote for this resolution, may I request and suggest that you consider continuing it till there's a new board in place, because then maybe we'll have a different decision if the vote is against it. But let's figure out how to balance the needs of the health of people versus the needs and the rights of the citizens, their God-given rights to wear a hat, to wear a shirt, to carry a pitchfork on their back. That's what we're looking at, a whole abuse of power, and it starts with the county government. And that's what I'm saying, and that's what everybody else here is saying. There's been an abuse of power, and it's not just now, it goes back years. Thank you.
Stephen Tumolino. Stephen, are you here? Hello?
I think he's coming.
It's the first time Robinson's had a good idea.
I was going to do that anyway. Continue it.
Continue it.
On deck will be Karen Vanderjant. You'll be next. If you give your name and city, please. You have 3 minutes.
Yes. My name is Stephen Tuminello. I'm speaking on behalf of myself as a resident of Mohave County, the Havasu Patriots Organization, and Sheriff Richard Mack, founder of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. The Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association is supportive and endorses the Havasu Patriots and Resolution 1776, declaring Mohave County a constitutional sanctuary county. The chief law enforcement officer in Mohave County, our county sheriff Doug Schuster, has proclaimed that he is a constitutional sheriff, and the CSPOA and the Havasu Patriots proudly stand behind Sheriff Schuster. The position of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association is that there is indeed a pandemic, but it is not the coronavirus. It is a pandemic of corruption, and its epicenter is Washington, D.C. For the record, we have supported the President's measured approach in promoting guidelines for the nation to follow, instead of issuing dictatorial orders as many governors and mayors have done. The CSPOA disagreed with the forced lockdown and the suspension of our Constitution and God-given rights. In a free society such as America was meant to be, masks cannot be forced upon the citizens either. Such orders have no place in America. What we eat, what we wear, where we go, and who we associate with is a personal choice. The efficacy of wearing a mask is really irrelevant. The question is whether any government official has the authority to mandate and enforce such rules. Any attempt to do so is wrong, it's immoral, and unlawful. The CSPOA applauds the sheriffs and other public servants who have refused to enforce mask mandates and who put freedom first and honor their oaths of allegiance to the Constitution. If government can force us to shut down our livelihoods, destroy our economy, and send us to jail if we fail to wear a mask, then is there anything at all that they could not do to us? Our stand at the CSPOA is simply this: all of our rights, all of the time, and there's no exceptions. Now, it's apparent that a lot of the governors in the United States have ties to the Chinese communists. This is all coming out with this election fraud. When we get orders or edicts from our governor, which are obviously illegal and unconstitutional, it has to make you wonder what the motivation is. When you obey these illegal and unconstitutional orders, you're essentially aiding the enemies of our country. Our goal is to make Mohave County a shining example to the rest of the state and to the nation that the best way to take our country back is at the local county level. Now, we've already received national attention on our Resolution 1776 petition to declare Mohave County a constitutional sanctuary county.
Stephen.
So the hope that the Mohave County Board of Supervisors does not embarrass itself by voting against this patriotic resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Vanderchat. That's what I said. Please give us your.
That works.
Please
Okay.
say your name. and
I am
your
Karen
city.
Vanderjack from Lake Havasu City, over 44 years living there. Okay, one of my main concerns when I have spoken or written emails and got responses back from city leaders, even from compliance officers and people who, police officers, I do follow the Constitution, is what I hear. And right now, I heard that we don't even understand what's in the Constitution. We have this thing in the Constitution called the preamble, which is a summary of what's in the Constitution. So if you can't read the whole Constitution, it's clearly there. It's we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our, I don't know, I have it in front of me just in case I got nervous, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain, and establish the Constitution of the United States of America. Now, where in there does it say protect? Well, it does say there's a defense. Yes, we will have a common defense. That's for defense of enemies. But nowhere does it say protect. It's not your job to protect. And many things in the Constitution have been misconstrued and have become considered law in our country, like abortion, for example, which was legislated through the courts. Okay? Well, that violates the Constitution right there because it says life, liberty. Life is a right, and these babies being aborted aren't getting life. Okay, being fined for not wearing a seatbelt. Well, we can govern our own behavior. This is what this Constitution is based on. It's a pyramid with the people at the base and the federal government at the very tip. We have to govern our own behavior. I know it sounds insane that we wouldn't give someone a ticket for not wearing a seatbelt. The separation of church and state. Not even in the Constitution. Nowhere is it in the Constitution. So we don't measure the cost of relinquishing our liberties. The court has held that except in the areas in which armed hostilities have made enforcement of civil law impossible, constitutional rights may not be suspended. This pattern is reoccurring and reoccurring. It's like the frog in the tepid water and it's boiling. Where do we stop it? When do we say, stop, let's look at what the Constitution says. When we do stop and look at the Constitution and the liberties that are not only there, but the very foundation for citizens to govern their own behavior. That's the idea. Okay, that's all I want to say, but I do have the Resolution 1776. If you want me to be the person who reads it, I'll be glad to. I'm done.
Thank you.
Ms. Vanderjack? Why don't you go ahead and read the resolution?
Yes, I'll be happy to. Okay. Resolution number 1776, the resolution of declaring Mohave County, Arizona as a constitutional sanctuary county as defined by this resolution. Whereas city, county, state, and federal government officials, in their well-meaning response to the COVID-19 virus outbreak, have disregarded the Constitution and the rule of law, undermining we the people confidence in these officials, to restore the confidence in our local, city, and county governments. We the people of Mohave County and their county government are resolute in honoring Article 6, Paragraph 2 of the Constitution of the United States of America, which state it is the supreme law of the land, inasmuch as any executive order, emergency proclamation, law, treaty, or other legislation is contrary to the Constitution, it will be declared null and void of law. It will bear no power to enforce, no obligation to obey. No court is bound to uphold it, nor any citizen to obey it. As stated in A.M. Jurisprudence, Constitutional Law, Volume 16, Section 19, no emergency allows for the violation of any provisions of the United States Constitution or state constitutions. And whereas we, the people of Mohave County, are united in our belief that we are guaranteed by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights that our God-given rights to life, liberty, prosperity, and the pursuit of happiness will be protected in the present and will be sustained for our posterity. In the light of the recent city, county, state, and federal violations of the First and 14th Amendment to our Constitution during the COVID-19 outbreak, we the people were compelled to reaffirm our right to self-determination and to be free from governmental intrusion or tyranny. In doing so, it is our hope to make our country, our county, an example to others of how to reclaim their God-given individual liberties and make our country even better places to live. Our residents, business owners, and community partners reflect that the commitment to improving our quality of life for each subsequent generation. And whereas we, the people of Mohave County and our county government, adhere to Title 18 U.S. Code Section 241 and 242, which prohibits the conspiracy to, under the color of authority, deprive any person of the free exercise or enjoyment of their rights or privileges secured to them by the Constitution. Therefore, this county government will prohibit any Mohave County law enforcement or regulatory agency from using any resources for the purposes of enforcing any executive order, emergency proclamation, law, treaty, or other legislation which is contrary to the Constitution. This is defined by the commitment of this county government's resolution to prohibit the use of any resource, up to and including those resources owned or properly controlled by other than the county of Mohave and the political subdivisions thereunto. This could and potentially would include automobiles or other vehicles, computers, telecommunication and devices, radio receivers or transmitters, and weaponry, ammunition, et al. In addition, Mohave County will offer no assistance to any government officials, law enforcement, or regulatory agencies from outside of Mohave County that attempt to enforce any executive order, emergency proclamation, law, treaty, or other legislation which is contrary to the Constitution. And whereas we, the people of Mohave County, define constitutional sanctuary county as A county that is committed to supporting and defending the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and bears the true faith and allegiance to the same, and faithfully safeguards the rights and privileges therein endowed to them by their Creator and guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States of America. Now, therefore, Lake Havasu City resolves as follows. Section 1, we the people of the county government declare Mohave County as a constitutional sanctuary county. We will protect and defend the free exercise and enjoyment of the rights and privileges secured to our citizens by the Constitution of the United States of America, regardless of any executive order, emergency proclamation, law, treaty, or other legislation which is contrary to our Constitution. Section 2, this resolution is a reaffirming of the we the people and our county government's recognition of the Constitution of the United States of America and the organic laws, which are the founding documents of the United States of America, which establish that no statute or code should conflict with the principles set forth in these documents. This resolution is effective immediately upon adoption. And then it goes on, approved and adopted by Mohave County, a place for everyone to sign. So that's what the resolution says.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. You know, as Ms. Vanderjack was reading, they talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness is actually the ability to own property. That is what the founders were speaking of when they drafted that. The governor issued an edict that said, I, as a landlord, could not evict my tenants of my rental properties for not paying rent. That's a clear violation of my pursuit of happiness and my free ownership of property. So my tenants don't have to pay their rent. There's nothing that I can do about it. My rights are violated. But so if there's any question about whether these actions are violating rights, clearly that's a violation of my rights of property. Thank you.
Matt, what?
Not right now, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Angus.
So at the end when you were reading, and thank everybody for speaking so eloquently on this issue, and but you said it would be effective immediately. And there are a lot of questions I have to ask about what that would look like to the county. I mean, just practically. Like right now, we have a health department who's doing things based on grants, based on things. So I think that we need to, and I agree with it, but practically running a county, I think that we need to have these questions answered. It's such a kind of a big thing, and the fact that people didn't know about it because it was brought here a couple of weeks ago, and I would like to put it out there. And I would like to have more people discuss it. And we did get a few emails from people who are against it, and they have their rights to get up and do it. Maybe they didn't know that we were going to be speaking about it today so in depth. My wish, and not for the reasons that Mr. Robinson spoke about, but just to make sure that when we do it right. And that we have the authority to do the things that this very long and involved resolution says. I mean, I don't think it's something that we should do sort of, flippantly to make a statement, because it's big. It's a big statement. And I want to make sure that we can do it and follow up on it and make sure that we have that right. Now, do I think we do? Of course I do. But just in practice, make sure that we can do it here in the county. I'm sure our lawyer has some things to say about it. So I'm going to ask, and it's the middle of Christmas, people aren't really concentrating on all of this. I would like to continue this until the first meeting in January, where we could sort of flesh all this out, have all the questions. I think the worst thing that could happen is if we do it and then find out all these things that would have to make us go back and forth. I don't want to do this. If we do this, and it's the will of the board, I want to do it right. So that's going to be my wish. I don't know if we're ready for a motion, but I don't know if we're done with people. But that's I wanted to explain that when I make that motion. It's not because I don't agree with it. I just think we need to talk about it more and make sure it is something that the county feasibly can do. And then we can be an example to the other jurisdictions out there. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else have any comments? Scotty McClure, would you like to speak now that you know what the content is of the discussion?
Yeah, Gene, I know you don't very often give this opportunity for somebody to speak twice. But now you've made me more confused.
Certainly.
So I think what I see in this is, I remember starting to vote back in the 70s after I got out of the Army. Before then, I could give a rat's patootie about it. Voting. But what I'm seeing is people my age and Gary's age and some of you other old geezers, we have left people in office like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Jerry Browns, et cetera, and Willie Browns, et cetera. We've left them in office too long. They own us. What fixes that is term limits. The Republican Party needs to start doing term limits, and that includes them. 12 years and they're out. That's how we got rid of Jerry Brown and Willie Brown. That's why we made that law in California, and I voted to get him out. He may be the mayor of San Francisco, and they can have him. But, okay, I got to simmer down here. But we need to do something. You got 50 people in this room, probably. You have 50 different interpretations of the Constitution of the United States of America. It's a damn good one. It's the best one in the world. You're never going to please everybody. Everybody's going to have their own little thing here, but you got 50 different people here that have different opinions, that's for sure. You guys haven't. Free speech is our First Amendment. The reason they made it the First Amendment is because it's the best amendment. And last week, or December 7th when I was here, I got a little upset by being interrupted several times, and none of you got up and let me have my 3 minutes. So how you guys, you didn't say anything about him interrupting me. None of you did. And I stormed out of here and almost got arrested because of that. I did not give my 3 minutes free speech last time. And none of you said a damn thing. Shame on you. And you're going to vote on this? You won't give me 3 minutes? I kind of like this, where we have this, the legislative branch, the judicial branch, and Trump University.
Thank you, Scotty. So, 1776. I can tell you in 1986, I took the oath of office for the first time as a Reserve Kingman police officer. Then again in 1988 as a Mohave County deputy sheriff. And later as a park ranger, certified officer. As a erase detective. Then as an elected constable. And now as a county supervisor. I think I have a good understanding of what I signed in the oath of office each one of those times. I also took a college level constitutional law class that I excelled in. I would not call myself an expert, but we do have a very competent attorney sitting in this panel that reads and listens and advises us on the constitutionality of what we're doing. And I thank you, Ryan Esplin. So now we have a group of folks that want to make Mohave County a constitutional sanctuary county. Whatever that is, we still don't know what that is. And I have to relate back in when I was a new county supervisor. I think the year was 2015, and there was a a mother of a teenage daughter that had committed suicide because of bullying in her school. And she came to me and asked me if there was anything I could do. And so I wrote a resolution, an anti-bully resolution. Very proud to bring this to this board and ask for their endorsement and support on behalf of this mother that had just lost her child. At that meeting, Supervisor Angus publicly ridiculed me and pointed out the fact that there's nobody that is pro-anti-bullying. Remember that, Hildy?
I don't remember ridiculing you. I remember the
Well, I felt ridiculed. So Supervisor Angus says, anybody in the audience that is pro-anti-bullying, please raise your hand. So I ask you now, is there anybody here that's against the Constitution? If so, please raise your hand. And that's what happened to me on the anti-bullying. And I withdrew the resolution because it was pointed out by other supervisors that resolutions really mean nothing, and we make way too many of them. And I learned a good lesson from that, Supervisor Angus. And it took me a while to get over that because I was humiliated, I was embarrassed, and I just didn't understand. But, you know, years have gone by, and I do understand that, and I agree with what you said. Resolutions don't mean a darn thing. So I think if someone feels that it's an infringement of their rights and how Mohave County's responded to the COVID-19 pandemic and protecting the health of our citizens, relief is rightfully sought through our system of law and justice. Right, Mr. Esplin? So under the 10th Amendment, the federal government has only those powers delegated to it by the U.S. Constitution, and all the remaining powers are reserved for the states or to the people. This means that the U.S. Constitution does not automatically supersede the state constitution or state law. It is these, not federal law, that give the state, the county, and the city governments their authority to enact public health and safety measures. We're a nation of laws, ladies and gentlemen. Patriots work within the system to make changes to the laws, and lawgivers they don't like or agree with. If the law needs to be fixed, take it to court, or take it to the state legislation, or take it to the people of Arizona as a ballot measure. This is how our constitutional republic works. It's worked well for over 200 years. If you have ways to change the laws. Use those ways. Don't try to overthrow an elected government because you disagree with it. Do it the right way. Change the laws. And I do agree with the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of Arizona. And at this time, I would like our attorney to weigh in and give us a statement, if you're prepared to do that, Ryan.
Sure, absolutely. And what I have to say is I've been sitting at this board for the last 9 months, since March, since the onset of the pandemic. And really, I appreciate the members of this board. What I've learned is that there are a number of opinions. I appreciate and respect your opinions. I respect the opinions of everyone here. It's amazing where we live in a society where we can get up and we can voice these, and then we can go home, or we can go to church, or we can go to work. We can do whatever we wish because we have those freedoms. And I believe that this board, for the last 9 months, has done a very good balancing act of weighing and considering the interests of people involved. I appreciate that. I really do. I'm looking at this purely as a legal standpoint, and I appreciate the comments that you've made. To Mr. Mitchell, I took your advice, and I read the opinion that you were talking about. I did. The opinion is County of Butler versus Wolf. And really, that's kind of what I want to point out here is that you've got to look at these, and you look at these cases and things that are issued. You have to understand there's a whole lot that goes into it, and you can't just look at one case and say, well, this is it, this is the lodestar, this is it, because it's not. You know, if you look at that case, for example, that's a district court case in the state of Pennsylvania. And if you understand our system of justice, that's the district court for the state of Pennsylvania. It's not for the state of Arizona. The state of Arizona has its own district. There's a district, the District of Arizona, and we have federal judges that govern over the federal district of Arizona. And each of these districts are overseen by circuits. There's, I think I'd have to look again, but I believe there's 15 circuits, including the federal circuit in DC. And after that, then the Supreme Court looks over it. So you have the Supreme Court, the circuit courts, and then the district courts. The District Court of Pennsylvania does not govern the district here in Arizona. It doesn't. But it's something that you look at, something you consider, and I did. I look at other jurisdictions, and I look at things and say, okay, here's what this jurisdiction is saying, and here's what that jurisdiction is saying. If you want to know about the state of the law here in Arizona on these executive orders, they're overwhelmingly in favor of the governor. And I'm just talking about the law here. For example, there's been 3 different district court cases here in Arizona that have directly ruled on the constitutionality of the governor's executive orders. 3 different federal judges have ruled in favor of the governor. I'll just point out those cases. First, Exponential Fitness versus Arizona, 2020 Westlaw 3971908. In that one, the plaintiffs argued a deprivation of procedural due process, substantive due process, equal protection violations, and they also challenged saying that there was a violation under the Takings Clause of the Fifth Amendment, the Contracts Clause of the Constitution, and void for vagueness. In every one of those, the district court judge for the District of Arizona ruled in favor of the state, ruled in favor of the governor. In the second one, McGee versus City of Flagstaff, 2020 Westlaw 2308479. In that one, they argued that the governor's orders violated state law, that the declaration of emergency that the governor didn't have the authority to do that. And again, the district court denied the plaintiff's request. The district court found that the governor had the authority to issue the executive orders. The district court found that it was not a deprivation of constitutionally protected interest. They argued that it was a restriction on the right of travel, and still the district courts denied that argument. And finally, there was an attack on the substantive due process part, and the district court denied that one as well. So that's the second one. The third one, and I'll keep in mind too, the Exponential Fitness one, those were businesses that were arguing that. Those were the fitness centers that were arguing that this is a violation of their constitutional rights, and the district court said no. In Mesa Golfland Limited versus Ducey, 2020 Westlaw 5632141, this was water parks who were arguing that the governor had violated their substantive due process rights. And the district court, this is the third different district court for the District of Arizona, ruled in favor of the governor. The district court found that the governor did not violate the Equal Protection Clause, did not violate the Substantive Due Process Clause. So that's the third different case. None of those cases have been appealed. And so you have the district court rulings on 3 different issues, and each time the district court for Arizona upheld those rulings. On a state level, you go to Mountainside Fitness Acquisition versus Ducey. This was in the Superior Court in Maricopa County. In that one, it was the fitness centers in state court were arguing that the governor had violated their constitutional rights. And the Superior Court for Maricopa County found that it did not violate their substantive due process rights. What they did find that there was a violation of the procedural due process rights, and so the remedy was to give these fitness centers an opportunity to open under certain criteria, and so then that's what they did, and they followed that. And so that's the process. You go to court and you do those things, because I think I really believe that what the chairman has said and what these supervisors have been saying for months is we are a country of order and rules, and we follow those. We do not violate your constitutional rights. This board has not violated constitutional rights. But there's going to be challenges. There's polls and things. And you can say, well, sometimes this will be it or that. Well, that's why you go to court and you exercise it, or you come here and you talk to us, or you go to your legislature and you ask for changes. That's the way to do it. But in terms of passing a resolution to that effect, I don't agree with it. I don't think it's something that you, the board, should be doing, because it's sending the wrong message, as if for the last 9 months, the legislatures, the governors, the people that are representing this have been doing something wrong. If there has been a wrong, they'll go to court. And there have been instances where you see, okay, that went too far. And that's why we've tried to bring it back into balance, like in the case that Mr. Mitchell cited. In Pennsylvania, that was an instance where the governor had gone too far. But if you look at that case, in that one, that was an order that prohibited gatherings both of public and private gatherings. In Arizona, we don't have that. The governor's executive order has specifically said that it only applies to public gatherings, and the governor has specifically said that constitutionally protected activities like First Amendment speech, or First Amendment assembly and First Amendment freedom of religion are exempt from the executive orders. So you have a completely different, you're comparing apples and oranges. So to rely on that and to say, well, all these things that have been happening for the 9 months have been unconstitutional, I would not agree that I do not recommend that you find that. And if you look at the resolution itself, from a legal perspective, some concerns that I have about it, that I don't think that this is something that this is not something that our office recommends. First, it says that whereas city, county, state, and federal government officials in their well-meaning response to the COVID-19 virus outbreak have disregarded the Constitution and the rule of law. I disagree with that. Have there been instances? Yes, absolutely. Mr. Mitchell pointed that out, that there was one in Pennsylvania where it happened. And you'll find a smattering others. But you're also, if we're talking about a basketball game here, governors and states would be up like 100-2. I mean, maybe 120 points. I mean, they're just, the overwhelming majority of courts have found that the governors have not exceeded their executive order. Some have, but many have not. And we're not, the game's not over yet. They're still appealing decisions to the Arizona Court of Appeals and to the Arizona Supreme Court. You're still out there. But to suggest right here that they've disregarded the Constitution and the rule of law, I don't think that's an accurate statement. The other one here, it says, in light of the recent city, county, state, and federal violations of the First and 14th Amendments to our Constitution during the COVID outbreak, I don't see that. I don't. And that's not popular. That's not something you want to hear. But I've got to tell you, from my perspective and my reading of the law and those things, that hasn't occurred. Has there been instances of overreach? Yes. And people like you have brought it to the forefront of of our attention to say, hey, this has gone too far. And so we bring it back in. If you use the example that Mr. Robinson gave an instance where there was too much of an overreach. And so what did we do? Supervisor Angus came in, changed it. That's what you did. And so you do that. But I don't see the overreach right now. I don't see the necessity right now. I don't see that. From a legal standpoint, I don't see that. And so to me, this is sending a message as if for the last 9 months that you guys have been a party to some kind of illegal thing happening, and I don't see that happening. I don't. So I think there's parts of this that are misleading that I don't think that you should do. I do not recommend that you adopt it. Another thing, for example, the citation in it. I mean, American jurisprudence is a secondary source. It's not a primary source. It's not case law. It's not statute. To cite something like that, I don't think that you want to put your footprint. I don't think you want to put your stamp of approval, even though it's a respectable legal source. It's still a secondary source, and hardly ever. I don't know if there's any judges that are going to rely on a secondary source like that. It also contains conclusory statements throughout the document that it doesn't give specific examples of, okay, here's this and here's that. I wouldn't agree. The county attorney's advice, or county attorney's office advice of this is not to adopt the resolution. But that being said, that doesn't mean, if the board here rejects it, or if the board here decides not to accept it, that doesn't mean that you are disregarding what these good people have said. You're listening to them. You're saying, hey, we like what you're saying here, but this is not necessary, and this is not the way to do it. There's other avenues and means of doing it, and that would be the better way.
Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. Supervisor Angus.
Well, Mr. Esplin, thank you for that very long explanation of what the high priests and priestesses of the court tried to tell us, and telling the people who just spoke so eloquently that we are not listening to them. I mean, just too long. Sorry about that, Ryan. I mean, I want to, since Supervisor Bishop brought me into it about something that probably nobody here knows, it is very relevant, and you misinterpreted and misrepresented what happened that day. And it's very relevant to this. Supervisor Bishop brought in a anti-bullying resolution. And again, these resolutions are not binding, but what happens, and I said this at the time, is that these resolutions get sent. They get sent to the state, they get sent to the federal government, and then politicians take those resolutions to try to convince the legislative body to pass more laws, right? And so I said at the time, who's for bullying? No one's for bullying, but do we want more laws for 15, 12, 13, 14-year-olds? I said at the time, it is a moral and spiritual problem. It is not a legal problem. It is not a government problem. And it's the same thing with this, and you can do it in reverse. We do this resolution, and it gets sent. And we're telling the people that we send to the state and to the federal government that this is how we feel in Mohave County. We expect you not to overstep your boundaries. And with all due respect to Ryan Esplin, I do think that we have overstepped our boundaries. Well, thank you for bringing that up, Supervisor Bishop, because it's very, very relevant. These aren't just innocuous things. Now, we talked about the Second Amendment sanctuary county at the time, and now we're seeing that it is something we may have to use. And maybe we don't have to use this 1776 resolution now, but maybe sometime we will. So again, because it is involved, and it's not just a page resolution, it's a multi-page, and I do think it needs to go through, I'm going to make a motion that we continue this till our first meeting in January. What is that? January 4th? January 4th, and that's my motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor
Second the motion.
and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk, can you do a roll call, please?
Supervisor Watson?
Yes. Yes.
Supervisor Angus?
Yes.
Supervisor Johnson?
No.
Supervisor Gould?
Aye.
And Chairman Bishop?
No.
Motion carries.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to take a 5-minute break, unless Supervisor Watson would like to make it 10. Okay, 5 minutes, and we'll reconvene.
Can you make it a little bit longer than that?
I'd like to call this meeting back to order. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be calling the meeting back to order. If you could take your conversations out into the lobby, please. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll go on now to our presentation. This will be recognition of Gary Watson, retiring Mohave County District 1 Supervisor. So this is Supervisor Gary Watson's last meeting of the year and his final one as supervisor for the past 12 years. And we'll now be playing a bridge 7-minute interview with him talking about his tenure. After the video, we'll tell you more about the longer 16-minute version. And
15-minute version?
Yeah, later we'll talk about where you can find that if you'd like to watch the rest of it. So this is a short 7-minute condensed version of the video. So hopefully IT is ready and we'll start that for us. It's actually something that I've really been looking forward to. I haven't got to see
I'm Bob Rosebell, the executive editor of True West Magazine, and I went to Mohave County Union High School with Kingman area supervisor Gary Watson back in the day. Of course, Kingman was so much smaller then. We used to drag race out on Stockton Hill Road. I have it on good authority Gary spent so mumuch time in the 4th grade they gave him tenure. He may not recall his favorite song, but I remember him doing the twist, the pony, and the Watusi at the old downtown Elks Hall. Unfortunately, the band wasn't playing at the time. Gary and I both grew up with the Code of the West, where everyone helped their neighbors and sought to make our hometown a better place. I agree with Studs Terkel, quote, "Heroes are not giant statues framed against the red sky. They are people who say, this is my community, and it is my responsibility to make it better." Gary is retiring after 12 years in office, and I can attest to the fact that he has done his duty with determination and commitment, and we are also very proud of it, except for that Watusi deal. That was so bad.
Supervisor Gary Watson. Currently, that is your title, certainly, and it's going away. How does that make you feel?
Well, I'll be looking forward to my retirement. Had a wonderful tenure here at Mohave County, and feel very proud to have been part of it for 12 years, and watching the progress and watching the organization build and refine itself into one of the finest organizations, county government-wise, in the state of Arizona.
Your district is a pretty large one. When you told me about it before, it kind of took me aback. How large is it area-wise?
It's 65% of Mohave County. It runs from the Bill Williams River in the south all the way to the Utah border. So
a lot of that's federal land?
Much of it is federal land, yeah.
You know, I would imagine that the issue that has been most important to you is one that's kind of never ending, and something all of us should be concerned about. But Benjamin Franklin said, when the wells dry, we know the worth of water. And
exactly. That certainly is true in Mohave County. We've gone through a great deal of effort, Mohave County along with the city of Kingman, on a joint effort to further identify the opportunities that we have with water in Mohave County and know its limitations, to put together plans for the future to make sure that we have sufficient resources and water to make sure that Mohave County will stay vibrant and growing for years to come.
Do you have a favorite book of all time?
I enjoy Clancy books and Balducci, a number of other current thrillers. My wife says I'm probably too avid of a reader in the evening, but I do enjoy reading.
What about a movie? You have a film that stands out and say, boy, I could watch that again and again.
It's funny you say that. I was just thinking about that the other day. I really enjoyed Patton. And it gave me the patriotic sense and the desire for me to go to Normandy and pay the respects to the people that lost their lives in World War II. I've already been to Pearl Harbor and experiencing and witnessing the USS Arizona and the lives that were lost during the Pearl Harbor attack gives you a sense of a deep appreciation for those folks that risked their lives and lost their lives during World War II, and since then, Korea, Vietnam, in the Middle East.
You know, you have a very interesting group of peers that you work with, fellow supervisors.
Yeah.
All of them quite different from each other.
Yes.
How does that work out overall?
Well, I think they bring the diversity of Mohave County actually together. Their points of view represent their districts, I think, pretty well. And the understanding that we work for the benefit of Mohave County, not essentially our districts. Each supervisor is responsible for the districts and does their best to represent them. But I think our board really realizes that it's the best interest of Mohave County that's the important thing to keep your eye on.
I have one last question here. It's a little unusual, a little different. But if you could imagine, just imagine that the Gary Watsons, the first grader, the second grader, could come over here and sit down right where I am right now and look at you and see what he has grown up to be and see what he's accomplished over these many years. What do you think he might say? Would he be happy with what had happened to his life, so to speak?
Well, I'm not positive, but I think probably as that young man sitting over there would have said, well, maybe you should have worked a little harder.
Hey everybody, this is John Schneider. You know, Bo from the Dukes of Hazzard. I'm just a good old boy, like another good old boy, Gary Watson. Congratulations on many, many years of wonderful service, Gary. You go out there and straighten those curves, flatten the hills. Yeehaw!
Well, there you go, Supervisor Watson. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So the 16-minute version of this is going to be put up on YouTube later today, and will stay up for everybody to watch and enjoy if you'd like to do that. But Gary, I just want to say that you have been the statesman of this group and the calm voice going forward, and a critical part of our water issues, which is going to leave a giant hole for us to fill collectively. So I know you'll be coming back to help us on the Wallapai water settlement, hopefully. So on behalf of myself and all of the Mohave County employees, we offer our sincere thank you and wish you Godspeed in your retirement. And it's been a true pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you often in retirement. So thank you, Supervisor Watson. So County Manager Elters, I believe you have something to say. Beautiful.
Madam Chair and board members and Supervisor Watson, it has been a pleasure working with you for the last 6 months. I'm honored to present this plaque to you. It is the depiction of Mohave County. It's made of pure copper and turquoise. The copper is from Mohave County, and the turquoise was from Mohave County as well. This was all donated. There was not a single taxpayer dollars that went toward it. And so with that, I would like to point out that the team that helped put this together and make it work is the Kingman Turquoise, the Baghdad Mine, and the Antares Art Studio that put it all together. So it's with pleasure that I present it to you, Supervisor Watson, so you can continue to think of Mohave County. And the plaque inside basically read, presented to Supervisor Gary Watson in appreciation for 12 years of distinguished service to Mohave County.
So before you sit down, Gary, on behalf of the entire suite and staff, we collected some of your favorite items. There's cookies and candies and everything that you'll need to relax with. So on behalf of the employees of Mohave County, the other supervisors, staff, happy trails. Okay, was there anyone else that had anything to say or present to Supervisor Watson before we go on with our regular agenda? Supervisor Angus.
Gary, you're really the first supervisor I met, and although over the years we have had our differences, you've always been a gentleman, and like Supervisor Bishop said, the calming voice on the board, and I appreciate that so, and I'm going to miss you. Personally, I'm going to miss you a lot.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Supervisor Gold.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Gary, I just wanted to thank you for your service and enjoy your retirement.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay, so this does end our presentation, and we'll go on now to the consent agenda. The following items listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion of said items unless a board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and action. Supervisor Johnson, do you have anything to pull?
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Supervisor Gold?
Nothing today, Madam Chairman.
Supervisor Angus?
8, 9, 11, and 12.
Supervisor Watson?
Nothing today. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to approve items 5 through 37 with the exception of 8, 9, 11, and 12.
So moved.
Second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion does pass. We'll go on now to item number 8. Accept and approve the COVID-19 Epidemiology and Laboratory Capacity Grant Funds from the Arizona Department of Health Services, which reimburses up to $1,563,705 for COVID-19 case investigation and mitigation response. Supervisor Angus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just real quick, this isn't like what we spoke about last time when we did not approve for, that was for enforcement. This is actually for contact tracing. And what does it mean by mitigation response?
So Supervisor Angus, members of the board, thank you for asking that question. It's really
joined the conference.
All the work that we're doing as far as investigations, contact tracing, following up with cases, making sure the cases are entered into the MedSys database in a timely manner so that we can follow up, and closing out cases. So all of those are included in our mitigation strategies, including we have one nurse that we were able to hire as part of that. she's working on investigations also and assisting with that effort.
Okay.
So no enforcement.
No, I know no enforcement. And with the cases, just the positive cases, not the deaths, because I'm sure we're going to be talking about this later at the last thing. Are we going to be talking about this? Because I won't do it now. Just about how your contact tracing is going with the up. So I'll just make a motion to accept this.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 9, also pulled by Supervisor Angus. Approve the MOU between Colorado River Union High School, District Number 2, and Mohave County Department of Public Health. Supervisor Angus.
Yeah, I just wanted a little bit of more of an explanation to this, since this is in my district.
Sure.
What would be an emergency in your estimation that we would need the huge field house?
Certainly. Madam Chair, members of the board, Supervisor Angus, we would be using this facility for our pods, our point of dispensary vaccination sites, and that size of a location would greatly enhance traffic control and the flow of that particular type of operation, since that's a 5-stage operation kind of spread out over the course of a facility. That would greatly enhance our ability to ensure that we're not backing up and having people on the highway, and that we can control the flow.
Okay, so nothing has been definitely agreed upon. This is just in case we would need a bigger. Okay.
That's correct.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve item 9.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. See, the next item, number 11, pulled by Supervisor Angus.
Right.
Approve.
Okay. You going to read or you want? Madam Chair, this is just, it's a bit part of a bigger discussion that we've had over the years, and this is not coming from our budget, it's from the RICO funds, but, we use these contracts, but they always go to businesses down in Phoenix, the Phoenix area, so our money goes to the businesses there when our businesses could really use it. So is this something that we could talk about? And, again, I don't know if today is the right time. Maybe we can put it on the agenda for next time. Do we have any leeway? And just how much do we save from doing these contracts? But again,
Supervisor Angus, I believe these contracts are put out to the local dealers, and has in the past been little interest with the local dealers.
Really?
That's right.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Angus, Tara Acton, the procurement director, is actually on the phone if you would like to ask her any questions.
Okay, do you want to ask it? Or?
Tara, are you on the telephone?
Yes, I am, Madam Chair.
Okay, maybe you can elaborate with what I just stated to Supervisor Angus about giving contracts to local dealers.
Sure, absolutely. I'm sorry, there's a little bit of an echo for me, but we do go out to bid every year for fleet vehicles. These sort of one-off purchases are either vehicles that were not previously planned and that we needed to buy after the fact, or they are ones that we did not receive offers or that were over budget, and we had to rework sort of the specifications in order to get them within budget.
Okay, I had a hard time understanding that, but let's just put it on the agenda. I'll put it on the agenda for sometime next year or the next time we have an issue like this. So, Madam Chair, I make a motion to accept item 11.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item, number 12. Approve the annual support and maintenance in excess of $50,000 with election systems and software in accordance with Mohave County Procurement Code. Supervisor Angus.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to ask if this is a recurring cost. This is just the ordinary routine maintenance contract. This has nothing to do with COVID.
Absolutely.
Madam Chair, Supervisor, I think I can clarify a little bit on this. We do have routine costs that are built in, and initially we expected that to be under $50,000. However, with the election this year, there are some things specific to how the the ballot is put together that increase costs that we don't know. And I see that Alan is there, so he can probably explain that a little bit better.
Okay, thank you, Tara. Alan?
Thank you, Tara. I was speaking for you. I didn't realize we were going towards you. Yes, indeed. Elections is a very expensive business. There's a lot of variable cost. It depends on the ballot size. The costing goes down towards how many races you have, how many candidates, how many issues, how many ballot styles, how many this, that, here, and there. So the best I can do, and I've been doing a pretty good job at it over the years, is being able to budget each consecutive year, for what I expect our costs are going to be during on years and off years, so to speak, for the types of elections we're having. So all the money that I'm speaking about has been budgeted. It has been approved, but sometimes it goes over 50 grand, sometimes it doesn't. It's for the maintenance of the equipment. It's for the contracts. It's like $36,000 alone for the software each particular year. It's for the coding of the ballots. It's for the audio, for the touchscreen voting. That kind of stuff's all in there, but it varies according to the size of the election, which I end up not really knowing until it's like 90 days out, like when how many are on, how many are off, this, that, here, and there. So I can do a PO. I did it for a couple of my other vendors, to do such a stuff. But, sometimes it's just like, it's over. So that was it.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve item 12.
Second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go on now to our public hearings.
Left the conference.
Item 38 has been pulled, so we'll go on to item number 39. And I will open the public hearing for a discussion of possible action in adjusting the gate rates charged at the Surbat landfill and at the Mohave Valley landfill. We have no speakers signed up on this, so I'll close the public hearing and open for discussion. Or a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item, number 40, I'll open the public hearing for a discussion and possible action to approve the adoption of Board of Supervisors Resolution number 2020-92, a rezone to bring parcels into compliance in the Hackberry vicinity. The Commission recommended approval by a 4-3 vote, and I do have a couple people signed up to speak on this. And beginning alphabetically again, Mr. Roger Chattel. Roger, I'll let you pronounce that for me. You just repeat your name and the city that you reside in, please.
Good morning, Supervisors on it. It's a special privilege to speak in front of you this morning. My name is Roger Chantel. My address is 10,001 East Highway 66. I want to commend you for your efforts on straightening out the road right-of-way that you approved a few weeks ago. It was not only appreciated, but necessary for the property owners to get to their property. And the zoning that's in front of you is one that's in an effort to try to bring the property in compliance with county rules and regulations, and to grant the property owners the right to have water and electricity, or get an address so they can get those particular things on it. There is still one more issue regarding the roads that is in existence, and that is the fact that the neighbor has his fence in front of the road, so the owners may have legal access, but they don't have physical access. And we dealt with the county survey department, and they turned it over to the engineering department, then the engineering department, from my understanding, turned it over to the county attorney's office in regards to issuing the notice to remove or correct the fence problem so that the property owners could have access to their pieces of property. And really all this rezone is to get everything in compliance with county law so that the people can honor the laws and respectfully move forward in using their property. So I'm just asking that, if you show a little bit of favor to the citizenry and get them into compliance by approving the zoning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any
On
questions?
the issue on it, the county attorney probably can give you an update on where they're at on issuing the notice regarding the removal of the fence. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions of the speaker? See none. Our next speaker is Nancy Stahl. Nancy? Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, is your name Evans? You're next on the list, so come on down. Actually, I'm going alphabetically, so you're on.
Howdy, y'all. Mr. Watson, we're going to miss y'all. Love your prayer. Great prayer.
Okay, sir, if you could just give your name and residence.
My name's Ace Evans, 4751 Hackberry.
Thank you.
Roger Chantel and his wife over there, they put up some trailers right east of our house. They're all abandoned. They were crack houses. We've got a nice little neighborhood right there. We got horses. We have special needs children and adults come over to our house. And we have people riding horses on the road. We have dogs. We have children out there. And he's got his little road over there. Yeah, I'm talking to you. He's got his little road over there, and he's a bully. He's going to put all these trailers in over there. He's got a little trailer that's sitting in a hole right now. And we know the type of people that will move in there. And we don't need crack houses over there. We have a nice community there, and everybody gets along, and he's fixing to move anyway. And Rodney Kenlin has already took over the books on the water finances. Keep laughing over there, big boy.
Point of order, please. Address the board, okay? Thank you.
Were you elected?
I was not, but
Sir, if you would address the board, I agree with our county attorney.
All
Thank
right. Anyway, that's about what I got to say about him.
Okay, thank you very much.
Y'all take care.
Kevin Nowicki. Thank you, Ryan.
Madam Chair, Board of Supervisors, thank you for allowing me to speak. Kevin Nowicki, I own the property due north of the subject property requesting a rezone. I wanted to reiterate my opposition to the requested rezone. The materials I supplied for the August Board of Supervisors meeting on the same issue are still relevant today. That is, it is an AR-36 area. Smaller parcels are located on Music Mountain, some distance away. Increased traffic, including trespass issues from the closed south end of Trumpet, potential flooding from the grading of the abandoned Trumpet Way, and losing the rural aspect of the area. Most importantly is Mr. Chantel's history of below standard buildings as listed in the prior materials I submitted. In addition, Mr. Chantel placed a mobile home on the property without proper permits nor installation. The county had red tagged the building in June. In a meeting at the end of October with Supervisor Watson, Mr. Chantel indicated he was only storing the building when in fact he had already had it listed as a home with property since mid-October. He also listed an address for the property which, according to planning and zoning, as of December 17th, is a bogus address. Per planning and zoning as of December 17th, there have been no permits issued for any of the subdivided properties. Sometime earlier this year, Mr. Chantel did an owner-initiated property split. In August, the split rezone was unanimously denied by the board. Each of the subdivided parcels has a different owner listed. He has the one with the mobile on it listed for sale. I understand Arizona is a buyer beware state, and potential buyers must do their due diligence. Should someone actually buy the property, no permits for septic building occupancy can be issued since the rezone was denied. Thus, Mr. Chantel is potentially defrauding buyers. If there's a 10-foot hole in the ground and someone falls into it and is badly injured, who's at fault? The person who made the hole or the person who fell in? I'm asking this board to once again deny the rezone and cover this hole so no one falls in. I also question if Mr. Chantel has standing to request a rezone on property owned by someone else. On a side note, my condolences to Madam Chairperson for her recent loss. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of the speaker? Okay. So I will close the public hearing at this time. Supervisor Watson, I believe this is in your area.
Thank you, Chairman Bishop. On item number 40, I'm going to make a motion to approve. And I would like to have a few minutes for explanation and questions after that.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
You want to wait for a second, or?
Do we have a second on the floor? We have the motion by Supervisor Watson.
Second.
And a second.
Thank you. Mr. Chantel has brought this to us several times, and there's been a number of different opportunities to solve. Mr. Walsh may want to come down and answer a few questions for us, but I would like to note that Mr. Kinlan, Mr. Norwicki, and Mr. Seward, and I believe in our previous hearing there was another person that was against this application. Mr. Wall, there's been a accusation that part of the property that Mr. Chantel owns is not within our code limit. Is that correct? The parcel that has the trailer and a sewer system?
Chairman Bishop, Supervisor Watson, my understanding of the property is I have not been to the property, but my understanding is that there has been, as has been mentioned, a couple of mobile homes that have been placed on the property. I don't believe that they've been set. Definitely, we have not issued any building permits for any septic systems or any building permits for placement of any modular homes.
Okay. If the zoning were to be approved today, the applicants to those parcels of property would have to go through the entire system of Mohave County to get permitted, correct?
That is correct. In addition, one of the conditions of the rezone, in order for the zoning to vest, requires a parcel plat of the property. That parcel plat would, as was mentioned, there is some question as to the placement of a fence to the north. That parcel plat would help establish the property line and help address that question as well.
Have you received that parcel plat yet?
At this point, no, we have not.
Okay. Then at this point, I'll rescind my motion.
Chairman Bishop, Supervisor Watson, just to clarify, one of the conditions, if approved, of the zoning to be vested is that a parcel plat be recorded. Typically, in rezones of this nature, that's a standard condition. They'll come before the board requesting that rezone, and if approved, one of the conditions for that zoning to vest is that a parcel plat be recorded. Therefore, I believe one of the conditions previously that Supervisor Watson you had issued to Mr. Chantel was that the rights-of-way be dedicated in front of those properties. Those have been recorded. So I just want to differentiate between the two. So the rights-of-way have been dedicated.
Those have been accepted.
Dedicated and accepted, correct.
Yes, but the plat has not.
The plat has not been recorded, and that is typical of what we would see. The rezone would be, if approved, then the applicant would do the parcel plat to establish those boundaries.
Okay, in this case, with all the confusion and a number of people that are in opposition to this, I would like to withdraw my motion and replace that with a continuance until applicants can provide that plat prior to acceptance for approval for rezone.
Okay, the motion's been withdrawn.
I second Supervisor Watson's motion.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you.
So I guess we need to vote on this. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we'll go on now to the regular agenda. Item number 41, discussion of possible action to acknowledge and discuss update from the Treasurer's Office on delinquent personal property.
Good morning, Chairman Bishop, members of the board.
Good morning, Luke.
We submitted the memorandum that kind of details a little bit of history going back to our first report back to the board in June, as well as an update. I'm happy to read the memorandum or answer any specific questions from members of the board.
Does anyone have any questions of Luke? Okay, I'll entertain a motion then.
Motion to approve.
Well, let me just make sure, if I could, Chairman, just to clarify, we're on item 41, right?
Yes.
So all you're approving is the acknowledgement? Is that what we're doing? Okay.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We need a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next item, discussion and possible action to approve the certificate of removal and abatement of 13 parcels of personal property. Total amount to be abated is $2,466.27. This was continued by the board at our December 7th meeting.
Motion to approve.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item, 43, discussion and possible action to approve and direct Public Works to pause Northern Avenue Road Diet Safety Project development and seek allocation of the project's $1 million plus of federal local transportation funds appropriation to the Mountain View Road construction. Supervisor Angus.
I want to thank Public Works for moving this up. This is a much-needed project, and it was sort of further out on the calendar. And thank you so much for moving it up. It is sorely needed in our neck of the woods. Right, Supervisor Gould?
Amen.
Okay.
Is that a name of
Yes, and
motion?
I'll make a motion to approve item 43.
I'll second the motion because it's coming from my district and on Northern Avenue, which would have actually reduced the ability of Northern Avenue to handle the traffic that it does. So I think this is a good trade.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with that as
Mr.
well.
Latowski, you did a fantastic job.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 44, discussion of possible action to approve the joint letter of the Mohave County Board of Supervisors and Mohave La Paz Workforce Development Board to be submitted to the Workforce Arizona Council requesting the certification of the Mohave La Paz Workforce Development Board. Okay, we have Mr. Smith here. If anybody wants to hear from him, or I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second the motion?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item, this will be a discussion of possible action to authorize Gary Watson, retiring Supervisor District 1, to continue to represent Mohave County in the Wallapai Tribe water rights settlement negotiations as requested by ADWR.
Madam Chairman?
I do have a couple people
Madam
signed up
Chairman.
to speak, but Supervisor Watson, go ahead.
If I could, please recuse me from this item, as this item, if it were successful, would possibly interfere with the representation of our new District 1 Supervisor-elect. I have no intentions of executing any item any further. So,
Okay.
just wanted to make sure that I'm recused from this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Watson.
Madam Chair, may I add something?
Yes,
Just
Supervisor
for
Angus.
some edification, this is a federal water rights settlement that's been ongoing for many years. Supervisor Watson has been involved since day one, so it's natural, it's very involved. But my question would be where are we at with that? I mean, you don't have to go into explanation, but are we near to resolution of this settlement?
We're at a crossroads, and there'll be actually a telephonic meeting this afternoon at 2 o'clock with the Washington, D.C. representation, along with the tribal members and their lobbyists. We're at somewhat of an impasse. There's a possible solution that we're going to be laying on the board, putting forth, not laying on the board, but putting forth to the Department of Interior. I believe because of the confidentiality agreements that I've executed on behalf of Mohave County, that's probably all I can say.
Okay. And just a technical question, a housekeeping question. Is this something that we need a contract for or any sort of paperwork, since he does have the confidentiality on behalf of Mohave County?
Madam Chairman, Board Member Angus, that would be my recommendation, just to keep matters in order. There is a confidentiality agreement that is binding by all parties, and so to that end, to ensure that that continues, as well as that we can reimburse Supervisor Watson for his expenses, as you know, and as noted in this item. There is no compensation. This is merely reimbursing him for any potential expenses that he may have to incur. And I would also say that the intent here is to limit this to the Wallapai tribe settlement negotiation. My understanding is the board appointed Supervisor Watson to lead the water issues, both surface water as well as groundwater, and he has, for the last 6 years, built relationships in the process and so on. So this would be limited to the settlement negotiation, and it's intended to terminate once we reach an agreement, or once those services are no longer needed.
So the answer is yes. You think we should have a formal agreement with Supervisor Watson?
Yes, Supervisor
Or
Angus.
will that come back to the board? Or, because there's nothing not that I've seen, there's nothing in the backup material.
My thinking and my preference is, if the board was to approve it today, that we would proceed with consulting with the county attorney's office. We'll draw up, we'll use template agreements that we have within the county. The amount will be unknown but limited, so I don't know that we need to come back to the board with that, unless the board wishes to see that.
Is this something, because of confidential, will we get updates, or will you update us? How will we know what's going on, since you've been giving us updates, but he will not be on the board?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Angus, Both. My understanding is the board, come January, will make certain appointments of certain board members to certain boards and commission. So whoever the board member that is appointed to these water issues, I'm sure will report. I will be more than happy supporting that board member or reporting on my own at the board discretion, at the board wishes, as to what is happening on both, again, the Colorado River surface water issues as well as the underground water aquifer issues as well, Supervisor. So yes.
Okay. That's it.
Madam Chair?
Supervisor Johnson, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I understand that Supervisor Watson is probably the best person that we have on the board, and I would love to keep him all involved in this if he was still an elected supervisor. I think we have the obligation to have an elected member handling this. We have a lobbying firm at $15,000 a month for $12,000, whatever it is. It can bring somebody up to speed. No, it'll take a lot to replace Supervisor Watson, but that's my request.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I don't think this is unprecedented. Didn't we keep Lois Wakimoto on after she was no longer on the board to do some water work for us? Does anybody remember that?
Yes, we kept her on for a one-day conference.
Oh, one-day conference. Okay. Thank you for that.
And Chairman Bishop, if I can just add just a couple of things on the confidentiality. You're going to look at the confidentiality agreement to see what he can disclose and not. I imagine that it's going to allow him to report back to the public body. The other thing is that if you look under the executive session statute, there are different ways that we can bring items to the board's attention in executive session. One of those under paragraph A2, discussion or consideration of records that are exempt from public inspection. So there's one, but then also including receipt and discussion of information or testimony that is specifically required to be maintained as confidential by state or federal law. So that might be a way that he can update the board through executive session. Also, if you look at A6, discussion, consultation, or consideration for international and interstate negotiations and for negotiations by a city, town, and then it also says with members of a tribal council or its designated representatives of an Indian reservation located within or adjacent to the city or town. So there may be some flexibility in there too. So I think there's ways that you can, that Supervisor Watson will be able to update the board, whether it be through executive session or other ways. But look, even though there's a confidentiality agreement.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
And will there be an opportunity to get the new District 1 supervisor who's in the audience up to speed? Is there any thought to that? So, because we have no idea how long this is going to go on for. And so you'll be working with the new.
Be glad to introduce him to the players.
Very good.
Madam Chairman.
Okay. Supervisor Gold.
We should probably need to put a sunset date on this, so that if they don't put a deal together by the end of the year, that we come back and revisit the issue. Otherwise, you're making it in perpetuity.
So that could be added to the motion.
Yeah, I would add that to the motion.
Okay, we do have 2 speakers. At this time, I'll call up Travis Linkenfelter, Supervisor-elect.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, board members. First of all, I just want to say I'm looking forward to working with all of you starting next year in providing balanced and conservative representation for the citizens of Mohave County. I look forward to it. I've also had the opportunity to speak with several of the individuals that have been involved in this ongoing settlement issue for the Wallapai tribe over the years, and learning who all the major players are, the positions of the stakeholders, where the settlement may currently stand, and some of the goals of the settlement that would be in the county's best interests. So I want to say Supervisor Watson has provided some tremendous water work over the years, and I think that needs to be recognized. The reason I didn't say anything when you were having your ceremony is because I knew I was going to be at the podium today. And I want to say, I personally thank you for all of your water work that you've done in Mohave County. It's absolutely critical, and I thank you for that. While it's unusual to retain a supervisor that's leaving, I think that if Wakamoto was retained for a year, then there's a little bit of a precedent there. And I do agree that there are some unique situations that can occur in government, right? Where in the short term, it's probably going to be in the best interest of Mohave County on this issue. And I also look forward to working with Gary and on this issue diligently within my district. So to that point, and you guys have basically already covered what I had put in my notes already. With that point, I only saw a letter from ADWR on this, and I didn't see any sort of written agreement attached to the backup, which would articulate and define a scope, a term, the reporting structure that you guys had mentioned. Will Gary operate as a county employee under the county manager? Will he operate as a direct consultant to the board? It's unknown because it's not captured in writing yet. So I'm glad to hear that there's going to be an agreement that is written and brought back to the board for approval. I think that's the most professional thing to do and in the best interest of the county and for Gary as well. And with that, I just want to say Merry Christmas to all of you. I wish you an enjoyable and safe New Year, and I look forward to getting to work next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Oh, I thought we did. Okay. I'll entertain a motion then at this time.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve item 45 with the stipulation that a formal letter will come back to the board with terms and reporting structure.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Okay. So you want me to add that? I want to add to my motion that...
You're not on.
I'd like to add to my motion that we put a sunset date of, what do you think, 6 months or a year? A year?
Probably a year.
So at December of 2021. December 31st of 2021.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor. It has been seconded now. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, let's do a roll call, make sure.
Supervisor Angus?
Aye.
Supervisor Johnson?
No.
Supervisor Gould?
No.
Supervisor Bishop?
Yes.
Motion does not carry as it is a tie.
That's correct. Does not carry.
May I ask Supervisor Gould a question?
Yes.
Is there anything I can add to the motion, or are you just in opposition of the motion itself?
I'm concerned about giving away the authority of a county supervisor to a private individual that no longer holds the office.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Supervisor Gould, just to clarify for the record, the services that are envisioned with this agreement do not interfere with the duties of the newly elected supervisor. In fact, they're only intended to help in a transition to bring the supervisor-elect up to speed in his district, as well as to provide the history for the water issues should he be the board member appointed to that. Supervisor Watson, after December 31st, on January 1st, will provide services just as a citizen, and whether it comes directly to the board or through the county manager's office, it will be just services provided as a resident or any other person, not by any mean or any stretch of the imagination as with any authority of the board members. So I just wanted to clarify that. At least that is my vision for it. That's my understanding. That's when I put this item on the agenda after consultation, that was and still is the intent. Thank
Okay,
you.
so we could continue this until the next meeting where the District 1 supervisor would be able to vote.
You've already had a motion to deny it, so.
So we can't make another motion to continue it?
Nope, well,
Well, I can rescind my motion.
no, we've already voted on it. It's already been voted on.
Oh, we voted. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I tried.
If
Okay.
somebody on the prevailing side could bring it at the next meeting, or Supervisor Lingenfelter could bring it, so.
I don't think he can he really bring it when he's not on the...
Oh, yeah, you're right, yeah. So,
Okay, so we'll deal with this January 4th, if so
or at a
desired.
different date, if you wish.
Okay. Item number 47. Discussion of possible action. This will be an update from the county. You know what? I'm going to save this one till the last, so I'm going to go on now to item 48. This will be a discussion of possible action to approve the adoption of Board of Supervisors Resolution Number 2020-184, addressing the federal statute and agreements sought by the Colorado River Indian Tribes CRIT to authorize CRIT to lease, option, store, and exchange up to 150,000 acre-feet of first priority water from on the reservation to off the reservation anywhere in the lower basin portion of the state of Arizona, including up and down Colorado River. Supervisor Watson, this is under your name, but I believe this is a resolution that we just put together.
Thank you, Chairman Bishop. Yes, we bring this resolution to you for to support the Colorado River Indian Tribes legislation to provide water, first priority water, to the metropolitan area of center of Arizona. After a lot of litigation over the years, after a lot of trial and tribulation over fourth priority water, I believe that this is the only real solution to satisfying the quench or the thirst of the Metroplex area, is the ability of the Colorado Indian Tribes, also known as CRIT, to be able to lease some of their water on a short-term lease. Probably the only solution available in the foreseeable future, and I really believe that Mohave County should support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and I do agree with you, Supervisor Watson. Is there any further discussion, any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, I'll vote yes. Motion carries. Okay, now we'll go back to item number 47. This will be a discussion of possible action. This will be an update from the County Public Health Director to the Board of Supervisors regarding the recent issues, actions, events, and county responses regarding COVID-19, plus updates and taking any necessary actions based upon those updates. We do have two people that have signed up to speak, but Denise, I'll let you give your presentation and then I'll call them up.
All right. Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you. I'll start off as I always do with the numbers. As of December 18th, there have been a total of 9,273 COVID-19 cases in the county to date. 6,172 of those cases have recovered, 275 deaths, and 957 individuals have been hospitalized at some point during their illness. Average age of cases is 47.6. Average age of deaths is 75.9. The hospital update, I want to preface the report by stating that the data is really point-in-time data and that it fluctuates and changes daily. So when we report out, whether or not it's to you through what we learn in EM Resource, or not so much in the weekly reports we give you, because those are aggregate numbers coming forward and will show trends, but certainly on the day-to-day numbers, those change and fluctuate regularly, and even throughout the course of a day, they of course change. So while the hospital data is important, monitoring trends is really what we're interested in, because that can help predict the future need and assist with planning and mitigation strategies. So I'll just go through a few pieces of the information that will be included in the weekly report that you'll receive either late this afternoon or tomorrow morning. As we finish the third week of approximately 1,000 new COVID cases in Mohave County, hospitals continue to show high occupancy rates. I don't know how many of you read the Kingman Daily Miner, but the paper indicated per a press release from Kingman Regional Medical Center that they're into their surge plans and asking for the public's patience as they continue to operate in that manner and try to address their situations internally. Emergency departments saw an average of 70 COVID plus patients per day, and an average of 21 COVID patients are admitted per day. So those are our averages over a week. So not in a single day, but over a given week. One hospital is on caution diversion status, meaning patients could be diverted to another location for higher acuity care. And 2 hospitals are reporting staffing issues, including both healthcare and support staff. And this has been a given for many of the hospitals moving forward. I mean, they've really started experiencing this shortage back in the summer, and I think it's continued. They're all trying to pull from, again, the same resources as far as nurses, traveling nurses. The additional funding from the state and the federal government should be helpful, I hope, in recruiting those nurses to Arizona and to our facilities as well. But at this point, I haven't heard if there's been any results from that. Any questions on the hospital report?
Denise, I don't have a question, but I can make a comment because recently I've spent many hours in the ER at Kingman Regional Medical Center and got to see firsthand the critical work that they do and some of the things that they face. And being in a quiet room, you can overhear conversations between doctors and nurses, and I can just tell you that they are overtaxed and they're working very hard, and COVID is all over that place.
Thank you, Supervisor Bishop. I do want to elaborate a little bit. During the June-July spike in cases and in deaths, the long-term care facilities were severely impacted at that time, and I think that was very clear. The majority of cases at this point and deaths in this current spike are not from long-term care facilities. So the deaths that you're seeing are not from people who are in long-term care facilities as a general rule. These are people who are living out in our community day to day. So. All right. I want to talk a little bit about,
Chair.
Sorry.
Sorry, Denise, to
That's
interrupt
okay.
you.
Mm-hmm.
But if I may, Madam Chair and board members, I just wanted to highlight a point and add to what you heard from Denise, and that is our county employment pool reflects what is going on in the community, and specifically as it relates to cases in general and positive cases in specific. To date, from the very beginning of this pandemic journey, we have had 51 positive cases within Mohave County employment pool. 29 of those 51 have occurred in the last 2 pay periods that start on November 21st and ended on December 18th. So as a result, we have 3 departments, fairly smaller in size, that have been impacted to the point where they have been authorized to work from home, have a skeleton presence here at the county building, and be self-quarantined in such a way that we can continue to perform essential functions, but not be able to interact as normally would be the case, just to ensure that we don't exacerbate the problem and undermine their ability to carry on the essential functions. So just an FYI, those departments are procurement, human resources, and finance. Thank you for allowing me to share that with you.
Thank you.
Just wanted to elaborate on something that's out in the media at this time about mutation. There's been a mutation of the COVID-19 virus found in the UK, and this has also been identified in Denmark, the Netherlands, and in Australia. You know, the experts are still researching this particular variation, and so we hope to have more information in the near future as to what that looks like and whether or not we have any of those particular cases in the U.S. But as you know, many of the European Union countries have stopped their immigration across borders into the UK until they can figure out more about this particular variation of the virus. So I'll move on to testing. Test times and lab result times have been about 2 to 3 days, or 2.3 days has been about the average for test results. So definite improvements from a few weeks ago when those test times were 4 and 5 days again, similar to summer. And they continue to look for strategies to improve that time frame and that turnaround. There was a recent story on ABC News 15 that highlighted Embry Health and the fact that a number of people, and I mean thousands of people, were informed that they had to be retested. And this was due to the fact that one of the labs that they were using was unable to process the specimens in a reasonable amount of time, and so they needed people to come back. I did check into that from Mohave County, and we were not impacted by those cases and by those issues because of the lab that they were using. It was a different lab. So none of our residents or those that were tested in our Embry Health test sites were impacted by that.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Angus?
I'm not sure about that because I've been hearing that a lot of people were called back and that one of the reasons they were given was that they stopped using the lab that they were using because of false positives. So I've been hearing differently about whether or not that's happening here in our county. I hear that it is.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Angus. I can check with Embry Health, and I'm happy to do so. This was about the timing itself of processing the specimen through the testing process, but apparently there's other issues, so I'll make sure that I follow up with Embry. Thank you. Okay, so the excitement of news for today. Last week, we were notified that we, Mohave County, would receive 5,700 doses of the Moderna vaccine. We worked with those facilities that had completed and were active in the onboarding process through ADHS to allocate out vaccine to those particular facilities to address the 1A population. And just as a reminder, the 1A population is healthcare workers, emergency medical service workers, and long-term care facility staff and residents. So those agencies should be receiving that vaccine starting today, tomorrow, and then into Wednesday. Same with the ancillary supplies that go along with that vaccine. Those supplies started to be delivered last week as of Thursday, and then they'll be received all the way up until the time that they need them. So those ancillary supplies are all the supplies that they'll need to actually perform the vaccinations. Any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Denise, did we ever get an answer on how many rounds of amplification are the labs where the tests from Mohave County go to? How many cycles of amplification are they running on those?
You know, Supervisor Gould, thank you for bringing that up. And I didn't ever get an answer, so let me follow back up, okay? Appreciate that.
When we get into vaccination of the general population, will we be vaccinating children?
I may need some help from our nurse manager for the ages specific for the different types of vaccines. So Pfizer is recommended, I believe, for 16 years and older. And I haven't read about the Moderna yet. You can hang on just one moment, please.
Moderna is 18 and older, and like Denise said, Pfizer is 16 and older.
So that's our plan to inoculate adults and 16-year-olds depending on which vaccine we get?
Yes.
Okay. Will we be vaccinating pregnant women?
No.
I saw pregnant women being vaccinated on TV.
As far as I know, that there haven't been enough studies.
I would agree.
Yeah, with, oh, go ahead.
Kyle Frazier, Emergency Preparedness Coordinator for Public Health. I can kind of answer to that a little bit. I did read into the emergency authorization for the Moderna vaccine. They did not include pregnant women within the initial phase 3 trials. However, there is a component in there that doesn't necessarily promote vaccinating the pregnant women, but it doesn't deny them either. There is a component within the emergency use authorization that has a phone number that if a pregnant woman does get vaccinated, they ask them to enroll in this program so they can kind of monitor them separately. So I'd say maybe consider it kind of like a phase 4 sort of thing, but they aren't denying vaccinations of the Moderna to pregnant women, but the advice is definitely for those pregnant women to check with their doctors, their primary care doctors for that answer.
Interesting. And since we're going to be administering these vaccines, is there any liability to the county if something goes poorly or the patient?
Supervisor Gould, we have been working with risk management on this, and I don't know if Byron can speak to that at all. I know that he's up there, but to talk about the liability, but I believe that's been addressed and that there would not be any liability to the county.
Can I jump in on that as well? I haven't dived into the issue too much, but I think there's federal law that protects counties, anybody that's administering a vaccine from if they get sick from the vaccine itself. So that's one, and I'll look into that and I'll follow up with you, Supervisor Gould. The other part is just your traditional tort law. I mean, as long as you follow the standard of care and follow their normal procedures, we should not be liable. I'm sure there probably is some kind of a waiver that the people are signing, so that will help protect against any kind of liability too. So, I mean, there's a couple different layers before ultimately the county could be held liable.
So, Ryan, your first example was if the person administering the vaccine becomes ill, or the patient becomes ill?
The patient, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the patient, yeah. So I think there's a federal law that prohibits suing if a patient gets ill from the vaccine itself. So saying, hey, the vaccine, but that really would be on the person, it would be on Moderna or Pfizer, because they're the ones that created the
They've
vaccine.
been identified anyway.
Yeah.
And generally these things go to the deepest pockets that are left, which might be the county.
But that would only be on that would be the part on the administration aspect of it. And like I said, I'm sure we've have a release if they sign it. Is that, do you know answer to that if we have a
There'll
release?
be a release. Actually, there is a consent form that they have to sign, and we're in the process now of reviewing the consent form that Public Health uses for all vaccines, and we're going to work with the county insurance pool to be sure we have language in there that addresses COVID as well. And there'll be a consent form and a waiver involved both together on that one form. In addition, we've talked to ASAP, our insurance pool people, about this. They essentially verified what Ryan has said. I've talked to Ryan about this. Most of your concern about liability would be for the content, the vaccine itself. That pretty much goes back, if you're concerned about future litigation, pretty much will go back to the manufacturer or potentially to FDA for approving it. Obviously, it's like anything else, and when you're involving lawyers, is they're probably going to try to sue everybody.
Sure.
But essentially, that's the opinion we've gotten from our insurance pool people, as well as from Ryan and some other research I've done, is as far as the vaccine itself, the county probably doesn't have that much of a risk. In terms of our nurses that with public health, or the ones that will be actually administering the vaccine, they do not have any personal liability either for what's inside that vaccine. Their professional liability just extends that they're able to give the vaccine correctly.
And my concern is if something goes wrong and the vaccine manufacturers have been indemnified, then they're going to keep moving their way down the food chain until they find somebody to sue. And if you could provide me a copy of the form that the people that are going to be vaccinated are going to sign when you get that worked out, that would be outstanding.
Sure, I can do that.
Thank you.
And just my quick, doing a quick research on the fly here, it looks like there's a national vaccine injury compensation program, which makes sense. It basically, the federal government has said, okay, we're going to funnel any of these claims into this process. And so they would file with the U.S. court for federal claims, and then you make the claim through that process. So I imagine that's what the process is if there's any kind of liability, or if there's any kind of harm caused by the vaccine itself. So I think
the liability has then been shifted from the people that made the vaccine to the backs of the taxpayers of the United States.
You could say it that way.
Outstanding.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions about the vaccine itself? Okay. Last Friday, we were in the process of exercising the point of dispensary out at the fairgrounds. And this was an opportunity really for us to do a dry trial run and make sure that we work out all of the logistical challenges and learn from that exercise about how we would do things differently in a real experience. We learned a lot. We have pages and pages of notes, which is excellent. That's what you hope for. We didn't expect perfection on a first round since none of us have experienced this before, but we need to apply that knowledge now to the actual implementation of a pod moving forward. And we'll continue to look at the implementation of that as we move into the 1B and 1C phases, which certainly expands the number of people eligible for vaccines. A lot of that will be, of course, dependent on the amount of vaccine that we do receive in our county. And at this point, we know 5,700 doses for this week. We have no further information about the number of doses that we'll receive in the future. I know that ADHS is working on this information, as is the CDC, but that information is currently not available to us.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Denise, how will you determine where that 5,700 doses goes within the county?
So in the initial round, we looked at the agency's facilities that had onboarded and tried to make sure that we were meeting a need in each of the communities, small and large, so including Canyonlands up in Beaver Dam Littlefield, Creek Valley, or actually it's Bees, I believe, up in the Colorado City area. And then the 4 hospitals, of course, will be major players in this. All the FQHCs are interested, et cetera. We're just trying to make sure that we're getting it sort of widespread across the county, so it's not focused just on the cities, but on the smaller communities as well.
Thank you.
And tribal. Thank you.
So we're in charge of it for the tribes also?
We are for at least one of the tribes. And thanks, Kyle.
Madam Chair, Supervisors, to answer that, Fort Mohave had the option to have essentially, working with us in the county or having Indian Health Services working with them directly. They kind of wanted to work with us on that one. Kaibab Paiute tribe, I'm waiting on an answer to confirm that they are being taken care of by Indian Health Services. and the Hualapai tribe, to our understanding, are being taken care of by Indian Health Human Services, or Indian Health Services, and they should be getting vaccinated, I believe. I think they had their first vaccinations, I think, last Friday, if I remember correctly. But I hope that answers your question a little bit.
So the tribes that are going to go with the county health department, do they bring their own allotment of vaccine, or is that coming out of our 5,700 doses?
That comes out of the county allotment.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't think so, Denise.
That was all I had as far as updates. Happy to answer any other questions.
Okay, I don't see any, but Scotty McClure, if you would like to come up and speak now.
I'll stay close. There you go. Thank you.
6 feet. I'm still wanting to know how they're going to notify us. I'm probably a number in the third row here. 72, plus I got COPD. So how am I going to be notified? Do I talk to the people down there that are giving us our tests down there at the community college? Do I phone the hospital? Do I phone who? Who, what, when, where, why, and how, I guess. I want to know. It's getting pretty close. We're on third base now, whatever. We're almost there. And I've got a problem. I'm supposed to get a colonoscopy and a kidney test. And with my COPD, I can't do this with a mask. And they don't put me under when they do the colonoscopy. I doubt if I can, so I'm going to have to delay this stuff. And I'm just one case out of thousands of us up there at the VA. And the VA ain't helping us at all on this situation, not a bit. So I'm asking you guys to help me. But I need to know more about this. I'm hearing that billionaires are buying these vaccines. Politicians are getting them ahead of us. Guess who our future vice president is going to be next week. And she said, I ain't taking no Trump vaccine. Didn't she? But she's getting hers next week. But the billionaires, these princes and stuff, are buying, they're getting stolen property. Are we going to send the sheriffs after our allotment? We've got $9 million. They could get overtime by escorting this vaccine and protecting him. Give them some overtime. Not a bad idea, because if we miss somebody steals our vaccine, this mutate, all viruses eventually mutate. Like the flu, we get a different flu each year. Now, this is an RNA. It's a definite going after it. It's not going to, this RNA will get it. I've taken Xarelto and the hepatitis C treatment, and they hit it right square dead on the head. Perfect. I'm on a lifetime Xarelto, and I did the hepatitis C treatment, and it was a miracle drug. Took $1 billion to develop it. But I don't know, the newspapers have just done a lousy job on letting us know. We've got politicians giving us numbers, and the way these guys have been treated, I'm really ashamed. I want to apologize to the way you guys have been treated. And it's not just this county. It's other counties from where I'm home from in California. She quit. I go home. I won't go to California anywhere. I'm staying here this year. I'm not going to get put down again. I've been back twice, but I've stayed here most of the time. And I own a place here, so. But I want to know who, what, when, why, and how.
Thank you, Scotty. Denise, can you answer a couple of Scotty's questions, like how are we going to be notifying the public, and do you need security when the
vaccine comes?
When the vaccine arrives?
Madam Chair, members of the board, we are looking at security issues. We've heard from other entities that has been an issue, and so I know that I just saw some emails this morning about that, and I do know Mike Browning had brought that up in a phone meeting that he was participating in. So I'm sure I'll have more information available for you in the near future on that and what steps. In terms of our timeline, I can speak for the 1A, where that particular phase will extend through December and really possibly into early January. We're uncertain, and so much of this uncertainty, and I mean, I can apologize, but I have very little control over this, is just how much vaccine we'll get in. And just trying to meet these phases in a way that we can finish a phase before we move on. And finish doesn't mean that everybody gets a shot and we're waiting for that day. Really, we have to think about what's realistic and what we think is realistic time frame for those individuals who want to be vaccinated, that are in that phase, to get that. And then we need to move on, because we have others that need that and are very interested in getting it. So what we will be doing is, I believe there was an email from IT that we'll be working with them to do more with our county website. We will certainly work with Roger and the communications director for the county on getting more information out to the public timely as we get it. And that's the thing. We may only get a few days' notice sometimes that we're transitioning and moving, so we have to be quick. So we'll continue to operate as best we can and try to get information out as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you. Anything further before I adjourn the meeting? Supervisor Gold.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So Denise, those 5,700 doses, are we getting both injections at the same time?
No, thank you for that. The 5,700 doses is just the first dose, and then 4 weeks from now we will receive the second 5,700, the exact amount, at least, to vaccinate those same individuals for the second dose.
Is it the same composition? So is it just 2 doses of the identical same virus, or is there an A dose and a B dose?
I believe it's the same.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And at this point, all we're getting, what we have is Moderna. We are uncertain if we'll get Pfizer at this point. We may. It could be in our future, but at this point we have Moderna.
The Moderna doesn't need to be kept sub-zero, correct? Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything further? Okay, this meeting is adjourned.
Very good.